What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we get into the deeper meaning of your favorite film directors. And once again, we're doing a movie franchise with a very special guest. We are doing Rocky, and who better to do Rocky than Mr. Josh the Engineer,
the champ.
JTE Movie Thinks himself, from Screen Junkies and Schmodown fame.
Not the Italian stallion. We gotta think of a name for you, JT. The Ecuadorian custodian. Yeah, the Ecuadorian custodian. I like that.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way, we have JT in the house, live in our Collider live studio, talking about the Rocky movies. We're going to be talking about all of the Rocky movies, as well as a Creed 2 review, as well as a Creed review too. We're going to be talking about all the Rocky films. We're going to be talking about which one's the best, what inspired them, and why they can be great movies, and they might not all be great movies. RB3, I'm looking at you, man.
Yeah.
But either way, we're going to get into all that in this episode, so make sure and stay tuned in for that. But before we do that, what we always do, JTE, since you have listened to us maybe once or twice.
No, more than that.
So I'm explaining the rules to you. Is we usually read the comments from the previous week's episode.
No, I do know that. Yeah.
Do you like that?
I remember that.
Is that a good addition, or do you feel like that?
It's fun. Who's going through these to decide which ones?
I don't read comments. So
it's me.
It's always
Okay.
Ace.
I picked the comments.
Do you always go negative,
But this was
positive?
RB3's idea.
It's my
So
idea.
it's a two-way street here, man.
Yeah. I'll sometimes creep into the comments when you and I disagree, just so I see how many
people are on your
how
side.
many on my side. And
Most of the time, it's on your side.
No, but
and I pick the one that's on my side.
You always pick the one that's on Ace's side. That's hilarious. That's cool.
I'm sure Infinity War changed. That was the opposite.
Infinity War, they killed me.
They were like,
they killed me.
They were like pleading for that glove so they can snap you out of existence, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
They
I
were
remember listening to that podcast. I was on it.
That was great. I thought that was a great episode.
I think I was on
You
it.
thought it was a good episode?
You don't think so?
Well, I didn't.
I thought your points were valid, and I
Yeah.
thought my points were valid.
I didn't think his points were that valid, but I was listening on the Metro, and I remember just being like, man, sometimes you listen to a podcast and you wish you were in the room
Yeah.
just to argue with that person.
We disagree on a lot of films.
Yeah,
man.
I
A few of them we agree on, but
Yeah.
we disagreed on Predators, RB3 and I, and we saw that together. We both agreed after the movie. I was like, that was just fun.
It was just a fun movie.
It was a fun movie.
It was a
really?
dumb fun movie.
Fun movie. And
It's not good.
Okay, wait. So what do you disagree with me with Infinity War?
I mean, I don't remember.
Everything?
That's the thing is, like, I don't remember.
You didn't like the movie.
Well, I can tell
That's
you what-
enough for me to
I
disagree
don't remember
on.
exact details. And here's the thing I learned from listening to your podcast. Sometimes I have an idea where most of my friends are going to land at a movie.
Sure.
RB3 you're one of those ones like
Yeah.
he could go either way.
Yeah.
Like I can't quite put a pin in
That's
you
a good point.
in your
That's funny.
opinions. Like Blade Runner
Oh,
2049.
that's right. You
yeah.
hated it.
It's not a great movie.
And there's
Not a
just
good
certain movies where I'm
Yeah.
like, RB3's gonna love this.
Yeah.
And then it's like he hated it. It's like can't quite put a pin
Yeah.
in you. But that's good. It's fun. It's always
Yeah.
like I never know where you're gonna come out.
I'm just
See?
a weird guy, man. But I am seeing Infinity. I'm trying to get into that Collider screening for Infinity
Oh,
War with
Russo
the Russo
Brothers?
brothers.
Oh, no way.
I'm hoping.
Why
that-
would you do that if you don't like the movie?
Well, I want to see the Russo brothers, man.
Hey, man.
And hey, well, I will
I'm
say,
gonna be that one fan who's like, this guy doesn't even like the movie.
No, I mean, I don't think I'm just gonna stand in the standby line or whatever. But for me, like, I might enjoy it another time in the theater, maybe.
Sure.
I just always, I don't know. I just think there's so much CGI in that movie too.
So?
It's like, oh god.
What does
like,
that have to do with story
Well, it's just
and character arcs?
So does
'cause
Toy
it's-
Story,
it's-
man.
Yeah, but it's not even like, but I don't know. It's not even good to me. Like, I don't know. Whatever, man. I have a lot of problems with that
All
movie.
right.
Hopefully, when I see it in the IMAX.
Let's
Yeah.
get into the comment
Yeah, let's
section
hear
before
some
we
of
get
these.
too
Yeah.
off the
Goodness
rails.
gracious, we're already getting fiery.
Let's start out with the most recent comment, which was left 3 hours ago, as of right now,
Hey.
by Ian Barrett, who says, and this has nothing to do with Harry Potter. Last week we talked about Harry
Yeah.
Potter with Copster.
I saw
I just
that.
thought it was a relevant comment to what we're going to talk about now. He says, Rocky IV may not be a great film, but damn it, it is the most watchable movie of all time. At 91 minutes, it's perfect. Throw it on and you will have a good time. That's one comment. Do you agree, Mr.
I'm gonna hold
Robert
my thoughts.
Butler III?
I'm gonna hold my.
Okay. Hold your thoughts. That's cool, man. That's cool. Victor Von Doom. I didn't know he listened to. Hey, man. Sometimes we get Batman in here.
Yeah.
Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, we did have Batman. The King of Wakanda. Sometimes
we got Lou Bloom from
Lou
Nightcrawler.
Bloom. Yeah, Lou
he's a
Bloom
celebrity.
being here. Yeah.
He
Tony
says,
Wagner.
Tony Wagner. Yeah, every time, man. He says, damn, guys, I need to go and watch all the movies again for the umpteenth time.
Hey.
Great episode.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
I'm not a big Harry Potter fan.
Hey.
Okay, so we have this.
Here's the thing: I don't dislike them. I just don't have like a love for them, where I'm like, I need to revisit them. I'm just like, I saw them once, I'm good.
We had this debate last week, and Ace and Copster kind of said that they thought Harry Potter is better than Lord of the Rings.
100.
What do you think?
100.
Where do you land on that?
Lord of the Rings.
Come
way
on,
better.
man.
I agree.
Has Harry Potter ever been nominated for Best Picture?
No,
I didn't
that's
think
a
so.
great point. Oh shit, I never thought about that.
Not only did
Damn,
Lord of the
why did
Rings
I say
get
that
So
last
was
week?
Crash.
Not
Damn,
only, yeah.
Dude.
Okay, but come on.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
but people don't
people
look back
people
to
love
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, come on, man.
It has it's gotten better with age, if anything, with Lord of the Rings.
See, but that's the thing, man. Like, now, that wouldn't happen.
What?
That kind of stuff doesn't happen. If Lord of the Rings came out last year, it wouldn't get nominated.
Return of the King would.
I don't know, man.
Because that was a
so.
celebration of all three movies. That award for the
I
King
just
was
feel
for
like-
all three.
I feel like the Academy is so in love with these $10 million movies that they're just afraid of a big budget.
Well, now that the blockbusters are the only things that are getting made, they're not gonna.
That's what I'm
They're
saying.
not going to jump to
But that's
awarding
disappointing
blockbusters.
because it should just be a merit on movies, on
True,
quality.
but then we don't have anything as good as Lord of the Rings coming out too.
Do we?
No.
What about Black Panther? What about
Yeah.
Avengers Infinity War?
Nah.
I would nominate
Black-
Infinity War right
Nah,
now.
Lord of the Rings is better than
Right
Black
now.
Panther.
What is right now? What are
You would nominate Infinity
I
War
would.
for Best Picture?
What's another?
Really?
What's a good movie that came out this year
I
that's
love
worthy?
Infinity War, but I don't know if
I
I'd
would
give it a
nominate
Best
it.
Picture nomination.
Why not?
Okay, like you have
What,
to admit Black
what else
Panther's
is good?
a better contender
Black
for
Klansman.
Black Panther is a better contender for Best
Yeah,
Picture because it's actually saying something.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Infinity War is just a great entertainment
What about
blockbuster
Return of the
popcorn
King?
film.
What is Return of the King saying?
I mean, it's saying a lot.
It's a lot. It's a very adult movie. Like it's to me. I love Lord of the Rings because beyond the spectacle, they have every character and every like sub story, subplot, different races and different. There's always like a factioning, like kind of war building up
Sure.
tension between. It has a very broad.
Well, I
spectrum
told you
of-
2 weeks ago that may not always be a good thing.
It might
but
not be a good thing. Yeah,
I was
you're
gonna
right.
say it might
Yeah.
be a little, if not a lot, racist.
yeah, but I think the way it depicts human relationship, even in this like fantastical world, I think is really great. I
Okay.
think it does it in a very adult way that's like not as accessible,
Sure.
and, like not as easy to like
Yeah,
latch onto.
Harry Potter, I always felt like I was missing something by not reading the books. Like, there's
Okay.
certain characters that I think people who read the books like were bringing to the movie. Like, oh, that character does this. He has this past, and I was like, okay, you're telling me these things, but the movie's not telling me what you're telling me. Whereas Lord of the Rings, I got everything from those characters I feel like I needed to know through the movie. Yeah, if I read the Lord of the Rings books, I'd get more about the world and the fantasy, but it didn't hurt the movie. Like, I didn't know what whatever the hell the demon's called.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, like Harry Potter, I really felt like I was missing something by not reading the books.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good point that RB3 made last week that one of the franchises is very, very much catered towards children going into adulthood, right? Kind of that coming of age kind of thing, which is true. You know, it does have that childlike aspect versus Lord of the Rings, which kind of doesn't.
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit
really
with,
dark.
A little bit, but not. Harry Potter was clearly a children's book.
Yeah, and Tolkien
So-
wrote Lord of the Rings during I think World War One.
Yeah.
Like while he was in the trenches.
And that's where Sauron,
Yeah.
the idea of Sauron being like this omniscient villain that you can't really fight, but
Yeah.
you just kind of have to, work your way around. That's the whole metaphor for the World War One thing too.
Yeah,
so.
and the smallest person can make a difference in a big war. Like the things he took from being in the actual battle and war, he put those beliefs into the Lord of the Rings book and this fantasy kind of wrapping.
Sure.
So I do think like he's really telling some profound things through this book and the movies. Do a
Yeah.
good job portraying that.
I know. I just feel like
JTE, the poet, man.
I feel like Harry is a much more compelling character, and I connect much more to Harry than I do
Harry.
to Frodo.
Harry Potter.
Well, you're talking what 8
Yeah.
or 9 movies compared to 3.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, I mean that's why I mentioned
That's a
last
good
week.
point.
It's a lot. You have a lot more time. Like,
Yeah.
so to me, it's not really
apples-
fully fair.
it's
to
apples to
really
orange.
compare them.
But you can still compare them though.
Yeah.
Quoting
But-
Little Dicky.
Yeah. Well, they're probably
It's like apples to oranges.
They're probably close in runtime when you add up the extended editions for
That's
Lord
true.
of the Rings.
Yeah, it gets a little closer. Although those Harry Potters are pretty long.
Yeah, they are long.
The last
Yeah.
few got really
the
long.
2.5 hours each. Like the not prisoner.
Half-Blood
Half-Blood
Prince.
Prince is 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then 1 and 2, Deathly Hallows, is 2.5 hours. So that's a lot of time.
Yeah,
It's a lot, yeah.
Let's read one more. Nice comment. Jackers147 says, RB3, as a
Hey.
Jewish person and a grandchild of a Holocaust survivor, I super appreciate and completely agree with your comment about the Jewish people being on the outside and being oppressed for who they are on the inside. I never considered Harry Potter from that perspective, and I literally grew up with the series. I had the first book read to me when I was 5, and the last movie was released when I was 18. There you go, RB3.
Oh wow, thank you. I
Yeah,
really appreciate
man, that's
that.
a nice
That's
comment.
awesome. Yeah,
but that's kind of it kind of goes to show. I mean, finishing up this conversation on Harry Potter as we get into the Rocky franchise, it kind of goes to show that it is able to kind of grow up with the audience, right? It deals with these very deep and dark and distinct metaphors. Harry Potter does, and it can show a child those metaphors, and I think that's always very, very important. I mean, we talked about that in the Illumination episode. I personally feel like when you're targeting children in a movie, you have to be extra careful and extra powerful with your message and less stupid, in my opinion. And I think that Harry Potter does that really well as the films go on. It starts out very silly and very childlike, but it finishes up and you kind of click in your head and you're like, oh crap, this is like relating to my world, my real world.
coming of age. It's
Yeah.
a coming of age story.
They get much darker. Imagine watching
Yeah.
the first one and go immediately to the last one.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the F did I miss in the middle?
Yeah, that's why it's
insane.
great though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that progression is so cool because
that's
it really
powerful.
shows someone who's like a kid becoming an adult and realizing that being an adult, sometimes you have to deal with the apocalypse.
Sacrifices and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like watching the first episode of Breaking Bad versus last. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but
Wow.
that is crazy. It's crazy drawing how different the
That's
show
true.
is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Let's get into the Rocky franchise. And the reason why we're doing this, guys, once again, Creed 2 just came out over the Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Real quick, how was your guys' Thanksgiving? JTE?
Yeah, good. It's real chill, low maintenance. I didn't travel this year. Usually I go visit family. So I just kind of did LA Thanksgiving.
Hey, that's what's
Nice.
up.
Or
Did you do a Friendsgiving?
kind of. I had a couple friends over, but
Sure.
like I basically put on Facebook like, "Hey, if you got nowhere to go, come by, get some turkey."
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. We had a few friends come over. We played some board games, and then I went Black Friday shopping, got a bunch of
Nice.
Blu-rays, and
Nice.
that was pretty much it.
RB3.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. I went to family, and we're big Domino's enthusiasts. You know, Domino's in terms of the.
Oh, I
the
was
game.
going to say, y'all
Not
went
the
to
pizza?
Domino's
No,
Pizza?
not Domino's Pizza.
Yeah.
You know, the game. So I went in there. We play for money. So I went in there with $9 in
What?
my pocket. Walked out with 29, fam.
From your
Nice.
family?
Just yeah.
You stealing from your family?
Hey
No,
man,
I'm
I'm just
playing.
winning
Winning the
games,
dough.
man.
That's
Yeah.
great, man. That's good to hear. Yeah.
I have no idea how to play dominoes.
Oh man, we gotta play it up sometime.
Yeah,
man.
I would love to learn.
Yeah. I'm good. I don't-
How's Phoenix?
It was good, man. I went back home. I drove back home to Phoenix. And the big thing that it's funny because I was thinking about it 3 years ago. I went back home to Phoenix and I went and I saw Creed with my dad. I mean, with my parents, obviously, but my dad, usually, who doesn't go see movies with me as often as my mom does, for example. So seeing Creed 2 with my dad and my whole family was great again, too. Just because, I mean, the Rocky franchise, man, I mean, you're going to talk about it quite a bit, and I'm probably going to talk about it a bit. I think your generation kind of skipped out on it a little bit. But
I like Rocky. I love Rocky.
No, but I'm saying like growing up with it, like your
Oh,
dad
yeah.
and your parents, and probably I don't know, I might be
Nah,
wrong.
no.
See, there you go. But like my dad is the one who introduced me to this franchise, and it kind of growing up with it is like it's part inspirational story, part nostalgic trip. So the combination of both, it just makes a good experience for a family type movie.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect like family type movie to watch together. Let's get into that movie. Let's get into Creed 2, which is a follow up to Ryan Coogler's Creed. which was very much questioned when it was coming out.
Took the world by surprise.
It took it by surprise because people really were like, the Rocky franchise, Balboa was a perfect ending to it. Why bring it back again? And then Coogler came into Sylvester Stallone with a great pitch.
His second film.
Second film after Fruitvale Station. We talked about it on our Coogler episode, and we raved about how great Creed is and how it's a great follow-up.
Yeah, I remember the morning I woke up, and this is back when I used to wake up at like 11 a.m., noon. I just had a late job, and I grabbed my phone, and Christian Harloff texted me and said, they're making a Creed movie, and Stallone's come back. I was like, this bullshit. I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, I thought he was messing with me. And then I'm like on my phone, like, what? Creed? And then I'm like, is it gonna be about Creed before he fought Rocky? And then I'm reading, wait, no, but Rocky's back, so it's about his kid. And I'm bored from day one.
Dude, Creed is so good. But anyways, let's talk about Creed 2 first, and then we'll talk about Creed. Creed 2 made $55 million over the 5-day weekend. I made $35, I believe, for the 3-day weekend. Really?
Those good numbers.
Those are good numbers.
Every week you come at me with some numbers. I have no idea if they're good or bad or not.
No, but you always get mad at me because you're like, those are good. And I'm like, no, they're not.
I believe it set
picky.
a record for best live action. I think maybe first or second for best live action.
Yeah, it was one of the
Thanksgiving weekend.
Highest live action 5-day.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
Because most of them are animated movies, like Frozen, I think.
A lot of family films, yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph 2 just came out too, right?
Ralph Breaks the Internet made a ton of money. I think it made 88 or 85 or something like
Around
that.
there, yeah.
Salute to Danny Fernandez.
Hey, shout out to Danny for that. But yeah, Ralph Breaks the Internet made a ton of money, but so did Creed 2, man.
Yeah.
People came out to see Creed 2 way more than Creed 1. I remember that because when I saw Creed 1, I was like, I put it in my best movie of the year because I did that video with you, and I was like, this is my favorite movie of the year. And then when I saw the box office numbers, I'm like, what? Y'all, you guys are tripping. It made like 20 mil.
You gotta remember, it cost.
I know,
like,
but still, I was
close
like,
to
for a movie as great as Creed, I was like, this movie should make like 40 mil.
Well, it's interesting. I think for Creed, Creed really made a huge splash on like the urban black community in a way that I think
That's true.
No other film during that time really did, because when that film came out, I mean, it may not have made like Geigo's at the box office, but I remember seeing that and Carson, which is right next to Compton, which is the closest theater to Compton, Cinemark and Carson, and literally the theaters were like all packed out. Like you couldn't find a seat for that movie during the opening weekend. And it was and I remember a lot of people seeing Creed and having no idea who Rocky was, or
That's a
Rocky
good
is
point.
franchise.
It was their first Rocky movie.
Yeah. So then for a lot of people, they just saw it as just a normal boxing movie that followed this guy named Creed and followed his story.
That's great.
And a lot of people attached onto that too. So I think carrying that into the second one.
Hold on.
That's great.
I don't want to believe that people had no
you
idea
kidding
who
me?
Rocky was.
Well, they
course.
didn't have any idea.
They've never seen
They
Rocky.
might be like, oh, there's Rocky. Yeah, I know Rocky, but I don't know. I haven't seen
bro.
the movies.
Yeah,
but they know
haven't
who
seen,
Rocky
yeah,
is.
okay, like yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They haven't seen the movies, but like they don't.
I was gonna say, have you met Dorian?
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
ton of
no,
people
really?
who have never seen the Rocky movies.
Yeah, if they haven't seen it though, he's such a part of pop culture.
Sure.
You got to know who
Maybe
he
a
is.
little
Well, like
bit.
people knew it was a Rocky movie,
Yeah,
but
you know
what's
people didn't. It wasn't identified as that. That's
You know what's
Interesting.
funny, man? And I know I'm sidetracking so much, and I'm supposed to keep everything on the rails, but I'm keeping it off the rails.
Hey.
I was Black Friday. I was in line for like some Black Friday thing, 2015 when Creed was coming out, opening day, and there was like two dudes behind me talking about Creed, and I was gonna see tomorrow. I already bought tickets for the next day because we're like, let's just watch it on Friday, because Black Friday is like Thursdays now.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
throws me
Thursday.
off. So I think it was Thursday that I was lining up, and Friday when I was gonna see the movie with my family. And behind me, they're like, "Yo, dog, I just saw Creed, man," and they're like, "Yo, really? Yo, Creed's so good." And then I just hear these two guys going back and forth, and he's like, I wanted to see it, man, but I don't know, it doesn't make sense. It's like this guy's down on his luck because I mean his dad was freaking Apollo Creed, and he's like, nah, man. They talk about it in the movie, and they hearing these two guys talk about Creed was the coolest thing ever. And the biggest thing they pointed out was the fact that Adonis came from money. Like the fact that his family, like he isn't some like off the
Very
street
subversive,
thug guy. He isn't. Like he is like versus
like Rocky in the first one.
like Rocky in the first one, who's very much kind of that vibe that he goes with. No, this guy comes from money because of who his dad is, which I thought was one of the coolest things in the movie for me, because I think that is so different
Yeah,
already.
they explore different avenues.
That's cool. But anyways, let's get into Creed 2. I'm going to start with Mr. Hot Takes himself. Hashtag Hot Take RB3.
I'm looking at you for.
I can't wait to hear. I don't know what either of you thought.
RB3 is notorious for hating good movies and liking bad movies.
I do like. I do still call out my love for Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
Oh, see,
that's a great
how can he like that movie?
I don't,
That's a great film.
How did he like that and not like Predator? Predator's way better than that.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought Predator was better than Jurassic World?
Yeah.
Fallen Kingdom might be my second.
Worst movie of the year? My worst movie of the year is still Venom.
I think mine.
Anyone who
Venom.
likes
I've seen
Venom is so confusing to me.
Did you like
Venom is so bad.
I didn't really like Venom, but
It's so bad.
Fallen Kingdom was just
All right.
bad. Also, I think Mile 22 is probably the worst film I saw.
Oh, okay. I
haven't
wanted
seen
to see
one
that.
either.
I wanted to.
You texted me about seeing that
Yeah,
one too. I
Don't-
remember.
I wanted to see it.
don't see it.
No?
It's
Okay.
probably my
I
worst.
just wanted to see Eco, man. Shout out to my boy
Trust
Eco.
me.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't do
He's
anything.
wasted.
Damn.
RB3, what'd you
They
think
get those
of?
Ray guys in a good movie.
I know, man.
Yeah.
Creed 2.
Creed 2.
Give me your take.
I actually, when I first left Creed 2, I was like, okay, this is a good sequel. It's fine, you know. But after, I haven't seen it a second time, but after sitting on it, I saw it on Saturday, and after sitting on it for these past like 4 or 5 days, like I've actually come to love it even more and more.
Nice.
Like the more I sit and think about it, I think there's so many great choices that they made in this film. I think there's a lot of, I think the idea of having, you know. The idea of reigniting this rivalry kind of scared me from the jump, because I don't, you know, we're going to talk about Rocky IV later, but I have my feelings about that movie. So kind of reigniting the idea was a little worrisome for me, but I feel like they handled it with such grace and such maturity, and they gave a perspective to both sides that I thought was really fascinating. And I also thought the character beats that they implemented with Creed's like family around him, with the relationship with his mother, with Tessa Thompson. I think all of that was just marvelously handled. The boxing scenes weren't as memorable as the first Creed, but and it is more formulaic and does feel more like a Rocky movie than the first Creed does. But overall, though, I think it still achieves its own like kind of fashion of uniqueness and it's different enough for the first movie for me to appreciate it as not just being, oh, it's just a dumb sequel. You know, it does something.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
What about you, GT?
Yeah, it's funny. I felt the same way when I first saw Creed. My mind just can't get over the fact that I'm seeing a new Rocky installment / Creed. So I remember the first time, and I went to the premiere of Creed, and it was
The
awesome.
Finstock.
The Finstock, yeah, it was great. We got to go to after party, but I almost can't take in the movie on the first view. So when I first saw Creed, I was like, I think I love this. But I'm not 100% sure. And then I saw it again, and I was like, I love this. This is amazing. It's even better the second time. I saw Creed the night it came out, Creed 2. And I felt the same way. I was like, okay, they did this. They did that. I didn't expect this. I think I love this. I think I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I saw it the next day. And there's something about knowing what's going to happen, and you could finally just ingest,
Take it all in.
in.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. I know what the beats are. Now that I know everything that's going to happen, can I sit down and just see what the director really was trying to say and do without that expectation and that excitement of the first time? It's different with like a movie like Infinity War, even though you don't like it, because that's just a roller coaster ride.
Sure.
Right.
I'm just there for the explosions, the characters meeting up. When I go to see a Rocky Creed movie, I'm there for the character work. And I agree with you. It's a little formulaic. I think, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Right.
But there are some surprises, and the surprises in this movie come with the characters.
Yes.
Not so much the story, the plot. It's an ABC 1, 2, 3 story. Bam, 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 got it. Every sports movie I've ever seen. But it's the scenes in between the boxing, the character motivation, the character choices that really to me is what makes the Rocky movies so great. Yeah, you're gonna get a fight at the end of every movie. Rocky most time will probably win, but what happens in the journey in the character moments in between are really what stick with me. And watching Creed 2 again, the Drago storyline is fantastic. I was really feeling for Victor Drago. And seeing some of the stuff that he did, with Adonis, and especially his relationship with Bianca, his mother, and Rocky, and how that kind of changed, and how he's like this cocky fighter, and his heart wasn't in the right place. I loved it so much more the second time, because I think the first time I saw it, I was just... I'm too hyped. I'm like, I can't concentrate. I'm just like, I'm seeing a freaking sequel to Rocky IV, and I'm seeing a sequel to Creed that I never thought I'd ever get. So yeah, I loved it more the second time. My crowd was cheering. The guy next to me was like throwing his fist around. The girl next to my girlfriend was crying along with my girlfriend. Like, see, this is one of those great movies to see with audience.
Yeah.
Because it feels like you're at a
100%.
sporting event. So, and I also agree with you for the most part. RB3, like the boxing scenes, they're not as technically.
Yeah,
Impressive.
they're not trying to show out in the same way that the first
that
one was
first
showing out.
fight in Creed, that one shot was amazing.
It was dope.
And that last scene,
Shout out to what's her face, Rachel's.
I can't pull her name right off the top of my head, but the DP.
The
oh
DP,
yeah.
She did
Ryan
Mudbound.
Coogler's- Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Oscar nominated.
Yeah, and Black. I think she did Black Panther as well.
She did Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yep. And the movie looks fantastic.
Yes.
But here's the thing, like
Rachel Morrison. Sorry.
Rachel Morrison.
Stephen Cable Jr. said this in an interview. I think it was on a podcast listening this year. I think it was the Ringer podcast.
Hey, shout out to the Ringer. I
I
love the Ringer.
And they were saying, like, Stallone told him, he said the corners, the scenes in the corner of the fight are almost, if not more important than what's happening in the ring. Because what happens in those corners before they go out to that next round is what the audience is going to take with them into that next round.
Right.
And to me, that's exactly what I want to hear. The
So
first
good.
Creed,
Dude, when he's like, you're gonna knock that son of a bitch
Yeah.
out. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna knock that son of a bitch out. It's so
I mean,
good.
I'll
dude.
never forget the first Creed when he goes, "I got a story, but I'm not a mistake."
Oh, that's so
air,
good.
the air left the theater. You heard everyone go,
Yeah.
That's
That was,
good.
that
Yeah.
was brilliant.
and there's scenes in this one that really, like, I don't think it quite get to that level,
Yeah.
because you've already been through that. But like when he's punching the ground and he's trying to get up,
Yeah.
and
he's underwater in the
are we
pool.
are we doing spoilers or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The Drago throwing the towel in was a beautiful
Yeah.
touch. I did not see that coming until like it happened.
Yeah.
I never thought there'd be a scene where Drago threw in the flag. I mean the towel. Like I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, you're surprising me with these character moments, and that's what I
Sure.
really appreciate.
Let's talk about.
let's hear yours.
my quick take.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like we got a lot to get to. I really enjoyed this movie, man. The thing that kind of keeps me going is these negative reviews that I've been reading a little bit, because I've
It's
been
got
like,
pretty good reviews.
it's got pretty good
Is it in
reviews.
the 80s? Or?
It's
It's
81%.
81. I know a buddy of mine who hated it though.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
listened to
Yeah.
to the. You guys are fans of them
I
too.
have-
The Double Toasted guys.
Yeah.
They
Oh, yeah,
shitted
yeah.
on this movie.
No, they gave it. They gave it middle of the road.
What's his name? Martin Frew. And I was like, dude, what movie did you see? It was a good movie. And he was like, oh, this movie's predictable trash. And I was like, wow, that was not what I thought at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't get it. I really do feel like, yes, the movie is predictable. Yes, the movie has emotional beats that you could see coming from like 100 miles away. It has become the formulaic Star Wars type movie, but these characters are characters that everyone can root for. Everyone feels for Adonis Creed. Everyone feels for freaking Bianca's Tessa Thompson. My mom
Yeah.
loves Tessa Thompson and Bianca's character.
And with spoilers, I thought her having the child through this
Yeah.
film was also
Well,
really, really great.
We never found out whether the baby has hearing. Or
Yeah,
not.
we did. At the end, she had the hearing aids on.
What
When
scene
she
at
was
the
like, "I
end?
want to introduce you to my baby girl." Remember that?
Oh, I didn't catch
What
it.
scene?
The baby,
Apollo.
the baby had the baby had the
Hearing
so
aids.
she could
Oh,
she could
she
hear.
did?
No,
No,
she
she can't.
can't because she had hearing aids.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
that's. I mean, I missed that. I mean, they didn't
She
make
had
a
hearing.
point of it.
She had she
Well,
was.
they did the test. I thought they showed.
You know
it
the
when they
grave
did the
scene?
test.
You know what I'm talking about? The very
Yeah,
end?
the very end where he visits
Yeah, it's
Apollo's
like, I want
grave.
to, and they're holding up the baby, and the baby has
But-
hearing aids. And
Yeah, because they do the test, but then Michael B. Jordan's like they might,
yeah,
it could
but
be a
at the
negative
end,
test.
that's kind of the reveal without saying it.
He didn't make a point of it. Then.
No, he didn't. No,
'Cause I didn't.
he made it more subtle.
Yeah.
I kind of like the way he did it, though. To be honest,
I
but that's real.
I just
saw it
can't.
twice, and I was like, "Can the baby hear or not?"
I can't lie though. I was, as soon as they were going there, I was like, "Oh, that's so dark.
Yeah, that was still.
That's dark.
That's
But then
why.
you get
Like
that-
coming off your
But
fight,
then
losing your fight,
Stallone
getting
has that
almost
great
killed.
line. Stallone's like, "Don't feel sorry for her because she
I
ain't gonna
know.
feel sorry." I'm like,
I know. That's great.
and I loved
That's
it.
good.
I loved the introduction of Sly in this movie because he's off camera, and
Yeah.
he's getting ready to fight, and you just hear, "Before you step in that ring," And
Yeah,
it's just like
yeah.
it's like, oh, the ghost of Rocky
Yeah.
is talking. to
Yeah,
him.
just coming from the
But
shadows.
Such a great introduction.
I guess my thing is that I don't know, man. I feel like people are slightly too negative on it. The people who were negative on it, for the most part, you're right. It does have good reviews, But I really do feel like, man, these are some of the most compelling, fun characters to root for. Every emotional beat, all the training scenes, the montage scenes, they're just fun. They're just you're into it.
I will say I think I might have liked the training montages in this one more than.
Ooh,
the first
see, I
Creed.
disagree with that. I love the freaking first one with the motor, with the bikes.
I like that. That's the best. That's the best one. Yeah, definitely.
And Meek Mill is like screaming in the background.
Yeah,
Come on, dude,
that was
that's
dope.
great.
That was dope. But I don't know. I love the part when they went out to the desert and
That's great too.
That was super sick. To
I
me,
remember not loving the training montage as much in the first one.
Oh, I
I liked
loved
it, but I remember the first time seeing Creed thinking, oh, that montage was good, but wasn't up to standards of what Rocky does in some other movies. But I do think maybe I liked the training montage.
I wish I could.
The underwater when he's underwater doing
when he puts his foot in the tire and he's like, you can't leave this. He's like just body blows and the neck. Yeah. I think I like this one more, but I need to go back.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. When the motorbike and he gets to the top of the hill.
Yeah, no, that's an iconic moment.
Yeah, you're talking about the best part of the whole montage.
Yeah.
And then he just looks at Rock and he's like, "Yo, this shit for you!" And he's like screaming. I'm like, this is what I want. I could like literally get up and run every morning to that scene and just watch it. That's why I like it more, just for that.
I think when this comes on Blu-ray, I'm gonna take the montage from Creed and Creed 2 and put it to
side
burning,
by side.
put it into Hearts on Fire. Yeah, give it the Rocky for it. I think it'd be fun. We'll do that.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of something that I felt like at first I didn't know where it was going to go, but I really connected to it way more than I thought I would, and that is the Drago storyline. It opens up with the Drago family, which I thought was so bold. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And menacing.
I was like, you're starting
Victor's
out with
just
them?
knocking dudes out, and it's like Creed 2. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I thought that was a bold choice, and I loved it. I loved the full story arc of it, and how he's like an outcast of his own country, and how he doesn't get any of the rewards.
Yeah,
and then now that he's good, now it's like people are worshiping him.
That's what I really dug about it. Is
I was like, that's so good.
Seeing the Russian like kind of like twisted like when they're having those backroom meetings with all the like rich family members who are barely coming around because the son is like decent at boxing.
Yeah, it's like now you talk to me.
And Victor's like, this
after
is bullshit.
Years.
It's like these people left you.
And his
mother's messed up.
Yeah,
I was like, that's like a super villain.
When she walked out of fight, man,
I literally was like, yo, you're evil.
Yeah,
You deserve to die.
And this is one thing I thought was genius by Stephen Cable Jr. and Stallone wrote the movie with another writer who worked on the Netflix show, Luke Cage.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Chino.
Yes, I can't remember his name.
Cooker,
I can't pronounce names. The fact that they did make you root for Victor a little bit, and the way the fight ended again, like he looks, his mom's not there, and the fact that he kept getting up at the end, and I was like,
you're like, yo,
shit.
I kind of want Victor.
But
like a brief second, you're like, Drago. Creed.
That's why I think it was so smart to not have Creed just knock him out.
Yeah.
Because instead, he still having Drago throw that towel in was just like, oh my god, really?
You know what was the moment in that last fight for me that did it is when his mom left, and his sigh was almost like a tear. Like his sigh was like, like it almost felt like he was crying, and I was like, dude, you're gonna make me cry for like a 300-pound monster. Like that is good. Like I didn't think I could feel that for them.
Also, I do think like Drago and Creed was like, I mean, I know it's like in tradition of the first like of Rocky IV, but the disproportion is like a little like crazy.
He's got like 50 pounds on the dude. I was like, no way.
That's an insane. Like that would not happen in modern boxing.
No way. I was like, that's a different weight class. That's like two different weight classes.
I agree, but like for me, it's a movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah.
It's not like he's fighting Joe Pesci out there.
Plus Michael B. Jordan was like,
dude was ripped.
40 pounds heavier in this one. I was like, dude, you
bigger.
look double the size.
He said he wants to fight a real fighter now.
Dude.
He says he wants to get into like a real ring with a real box.
He challenged Roy Jones.
I was like, that guy was ridiculous in that movie. But let's I also want to mention the besides the Drago storyline, what I connected to. I love the Tessa Thompson family angle as well. I thought that was a good addition to add to the movie. I gotta say, man, I was talking to my mom about this because I'm a boxing MMA nerd, more MMA than boxing, admittedly. But I am a big fan of, especially back in my WWE fan days, of it's so important nowadays too, is boxing and MMA and wrestling entrances. And I was very much like paying attention to like, what's he gonna come out to, man? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it was Hail Mary in the first one. Tupac.
That was in the Creed.
Creed, yeah.
Yeah. Which was dope because it was like the most chill, like
with me.
Yeah, but it was dope.
Shit.
That's
And
sick. But when Tessa came out and did the song.
No, but the first one. What was the first one?
Jaden Smith.
Jaden Smith!
Yeah, like, hey, best rapper of this generation. When they did Icon. Icon. I was like, yes,
and he's like coming out, and I'm like, oh, dang.
Yes.
But I can't lie, dude. I was like, what's he gonna do for this? How's he gonna follow that up?
Yeah.
And when freaking Tessa Thompson comes out singing,
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit!
Yeah.
How hard is that? That's like the
your
hardest.
wife's like your
Super
hype
sick.
man. Like, oh.
Yeah.
I was
like,
thinking about it. I
yeah.
told my mom, if in real life some boxer and
Married
his
a
wife was
singer.
like
Yeah.
if Jay-Z was a boxer and Beyonce was like,
Yeah.
that would be the hardest thing. And like my
Yeah.
wife is bringing me out to
But-
that's dope.
It
dude.
also made sense story wise because they weren't working together in that first fight. She said, you did it without me.
Yeah.
He goes, this time we're going to do it together.
Right.
So like the first fight, she was just in the audience. She had nothing to do. This just kind of symbolized that we're coming down. You're not just fighting him. You're fighting me too.
Right.
And I was like,
love that.
mwah.
And I also love the visual that when it starts in the arena and
Yeah,
it just goes around and then it lands on the light. Like that was so good, man.
It's great.
And see, that's why I don't see what. So when I talked to my friend who saw Creed 2, one of his criticisms is that it just didn't have like the style. Like there wasn't as much style as the first Creed had, right? But for me, like that scene, and then like for me, the training montages too are the examples of the heightened style in this movie, just in a different way that Coogler.
Sure.
Coogler had the like one take, like the long take kind of thing. But to me, Stephen Cable Jr. had the
Cinematic.
He had the cinematic. He had I don't know. It was a different take.
Here's
but
the thing. Coogler has been dreaming about making Creed since he was a kid. This is a dream project of his. Like he literally could not wait to make this movie. The first time he got a chance to like, hey, what movie do you want to make? He's like, I want to make Creed. Stephen Cable Jr. was hired almost the last second.
He was, yeah.
It was for a while. Stallone was directing.
Yeah.
So when
I don't
think it would have been good.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like this is more Stallone's baby or Stephen Cable's baby?
Well, Stallone wrote the script.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It feels
but
like
I don't think
Stallone-
this is Stephen Cable's baby because, like I said, it wasn't a dream project. He got the job, and I think within 2 months they were shooting. Like it was a few months, so he was able to come in and put his own touch on it. I think he said the actual POV shots in the fights were something that
I do. Yeah, that is.
which was not in the first film, and that's something he brought into this one that he really wanted to do.
Well, I
It
think
was
that
in,
was-
in Ron Howard's Cinderella.
Cinderella
Man.
Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So that for me, like Stephen Cable Jr., the reason why maybe he didn't have that one take shot because he literally didn't have a lot of time. He kind of got this job and was like hit the ground running. So he had a project.
I'm very happy they didn't do the one take thing again. Like I think I really hate when like sequels do what everybody loved in the first one. Let's just do it again but bigger.
Like the Marvel shows, hallway fight, but 10 times longer.
I'm a sucker for that.
I
love
like
it.
them too, but they keep doing it. It's
man. I'm like Daredevil.
I
You
didn't-
better
I didn't
fight.
like- I didn't even like
Daredevil
this
better
season.
fight for an entire episode in season 4.
Yeah.
Just one 45-minute fight.
Yeah.
So I just think Stephen Cable Jr. He did a really good job.
He
Honestly,
did.
I think he did a really good job.
Yeah, he did.
He kept the tone of the first one.
Yeah.
I just don't think he had they started shooting this thing in February, and it's
In February?
Yeah,
Damn, they pooped it out this quick.
they shot for
Damn.
I think 80 days, not even.
And they edited it down. That's highly
crazy.
impressive for a
and
film
there was
like
a
this.
lot cut down. I saw some scenes in some BTS
Yeah, some of the
footage.
B-roll.
I was like, whoa, this is
So-
not in the movie.
They shot this over a couple months and edited it and had it out here by Thanksgiving.
That's
Yeah,
So-
that's great.
I think Coogler had probably this movie mapped out in his brain for like years.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he had a little bit more time. He built it. He put it together. Whereas this was like, we need to do a sequel.
Well, I don't.
Who
Well,
we getting?
to me, not having style is not really. I wouldn't criticize the movie because it doesn't adapt like the same kind of like
Well,
fluid kind of
Yeah,
style.
the Rocky movies aren't exactly known for their style.
Yeah,
Sure.
it was,
I
just,
mean,
it was
I
really
think
just Creed that broke the
Creed
mold.
really
Creed broke the mold.
Brought so much to the table, man. Let's finish up by first. I want to say a side comment vomit. I mean, bro, Adonis Creed had to train with the Mexicans, bro.
Yeah.
He's like, I got the secret trick for you.
That's what-
Train with the Mexicans, and then you can beat the Russian. And I was like, that's right, man. That's right.
I will say when they're like the fight has to be in Moscow, I was like,
Yeah.
he's gonna train in Moscow,
And he's like, nope.
just like in Rocky 4.
I thought
he's
too.
gonna be going up the mountains, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, we'll do it here in Mexico. Then then literally the montage ends and it cuts to the stadium in Moscow.
Yeah.
I was hoping for like a little time
No, I love
of
that.
them in Moscow.
I love them.
You
just
didn't
going.
want him in Moscow at all?
No, I like that they did
Yeah,
that.
I don't need them.
I would have liked. I would have been cool with it. I would have been like, oh, cool, snow training.
Like just them
Yeah.
landing in the airport and like you know, Adonis has never been to Moscow before. That would have been kind of interesting to see.
It would have
like,
been, yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more of that.
Yeah, but either way, I love that he was like, you got to train with the Mex. He didn't say that, but
Yeah,
one
it's
of-
true.
I love Rocky 4 where Paulie just hates Moscow. He's like, there's no TV here and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
like they're training.
Uh-huh.
I would have like imagine if like Rocky and Adonis like ran into some people like at a bar and they're just like,
Sure.
oh, it's
It would have been
American, get out of
hostile.
here.
Ooh, it would have been
would-
hostile
It
for
could have
sure.
been some interesting stuff, but that's just me being like,
Yeah.
I want my cake and
Eat it
eat
too.
And
it.
frosting.
I was completely happy with everything we got.
I love how this movie ends, man. I think the whole connection with his son Robert, that was so good to me.
Right.
I was like,
with the homie from This Is Us.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
Milo Ventimiglia. Shout out to Peter Petrelli from Heroes. I loved it because I love that storyline in Rocky Balboa, and I was
Yeah.
like, they never bring it up again, and I love that they bring it back because Rocky Balboa. That whole dynamic with his son was some of the best parts of that movie. And the fact that they even just teased at it, I was like, thank you for that because I
Yeah.
needed that.
Stephen Cable Jr. said like that was one of the things he brought into the story after he read the first script because he loved him in Rocky Balboa and he said Creed it was like a throwaway line almost. There's that
Yeah.
one scene. He's like, let's bring that back in,
Yeah.
and I was so happy about that.
That's a great ending.
Because Rocky's not the kind of guy who should be.
No.
Family is like everything. to him.
Yeah, you should connect with his son.
Yeah, so like that was one thing in the first Creed that bothered me a little bit. I was like, no,
Just kinda wrote him off.
No,
Like, yeah.
they were all good at the end of Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
He should just go to Canada or somewhere and be like, I'm gonna not talk to my dad. So like that bothered me a little bit. So I'm glad he went back and fixed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Creed, the first Creed, the intent, I feel like the intent was to have the Adonis be the son figure.
Yes,
for
so
Rocky.
it would be tough for him to be there. No, I don't.
Right.
You know, I already have a son.
Right,
so
right,
it made.
right.
I understand why they didn't Creed, but just as a lifelong Rocky fan, it bothered me a little bit.
Right.
So and for them to bring it back to this one, I was really
Well,
happy.
do you think? I mean, do you think that for moving forward in the Creed franchise, is that going to be a conflict now?
I
or
don't
is
think
that-
I don't think we're gonna see much of Rocky after this one.
Really. So you think Rocky's
The way
just
this
Do you think
movie,
retired?
this is
the
passing
way
the baton, literally?
he literally says it in the end of the movie.
He does. It's your turn
It's
now.
your turn now.
Literally,
he does
for
even.
My Hero Academia. Shout out to no one gets
He
that.
does even go into the ring when Adonis wins. He's outside the ring the whole time. Puts his fist up, and then that's it. And
All Might in Midoriya, bro.
Yeah, and as the camera pulls away slowly, the Rocky theme, the Adrian theme comes in, the Rocky theme, and it's almost like they're saying goodbye to Rocky. If he comes back in the next movie, it'll be like a cameo.
I agree. I think
It'll
it'll
be
be
like-
short scenes.
Maybe him
A short
watching the
scene.
fight at home
You
or
don't think
something.
he'll like die like Mickey did, or
I don't think
Rocky
so. I don't think because that was used as a turning point for Rocky. I don't think Adonis needs that turning point. He already lost his father. I think he'll mention Rocky in the next movie, but I just don't think Rocky will have a presence. Might have a cameo, maybe a phone call, but
Who's he gonna fight in the next one? Is
no,
it gonna be Clubber
I
Lang's son?
I don't know where they go. I don't know where they
Tommy
go.
Gunn's
yeah, don't do
son.
no more sons.
No,
please,
no more sons.
Like, goddamn it.
No more sons.
But I would like a Clubber Lane type villain.
Well,
Hey.
and Michael B. Jordan said, like, they asked him, who would you have play Clubber Lang Jr.? And
He said Winston Duke.
Winston Duke.
That's
Really?
I was
great.
like,
That's
oh,
good.
Oh,
That's good
sick.
casting.
That's not bad.
Damn.
casting.
That's nice.
But
Yeah, I'll direct that one.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Creed 3.
Challenge day.
Yeah.
He straight up comes out, ooh, and he comes out doing this like
He should do
He's
the
just
Black
playing
Panther.
M'Baka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His one that should be M'Baku as
A Black Panther and MCU crossover with Creed.
Hey.
It's in the same universe. man.
fighter out of Wakanda.
Killmonger. You see like the bumps
Yeah.
start popping out of Creed like mid fight.
But I don't know where the next one would go. I heard Michael B. Jordan say several times that he wants to keep this thing going.
Yeah,
And this
it's
mo-
kind of hard.
And this
Now you're gonna get into the like 1 and 2. You're like, cool. Once you get into these more sequels, you're gonna get into the dragging, kind of drawing it out.
Here's the thing, I don't know, because this one is
because
so...
Rocky fell into that a little bit.
But this one is such
Rocky
a
3 's
sequel to Rocky 4. Like,
Sure.
closing a lot of those ties. Like, this felt as much as a Rocky sequel in a lot of ways than it did a Creed sequel. This
Yeah.
next Creed movie shouldn't have anything to do with Rocky.
Yeah,
Except
but
for
it
have
should-
him cameo.
Well, that's why I got scared when the whole thing of Stallone directing it was going to be a thing, because I felt like Creed was so distinctly Creed, and it was so distinctly
A younger
what it
filmmaker's
was. Yeah,
vision,
yeah, younger filmmaker, and it's also distinctly African American too. And then with Stallone coming into the coming and directing the second one of that, it worried me a little bit. But
I was worried too. I'm a huge Stallone fan. Even I was like, ugh.
yeah, especially
I don't
when
know.
they announced the whole Drago thing. You're
Yeah,
like, oh,
I
that
was like,
sounds
oh.
kind of cheesy.
I was like, but I'm glad they got Stephen Campbell Jr. As soon as
Yeah.
It worked out, man.
the second they announced him, I went back and I watched his trailer for The Land.
I don't see no.
And I saw the trailer and I said, this looks like it's going to work.
UFC baby, fight on.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. Now let's get into the Rocky franchise as a whole, starting with the movie that started it all, man, back in 1976.
Yeah.
OG.
The very first Rocky,
Best Picture
directed
winner.
by, what's his name? John G.
Avildsen.
This is a movie, man. It was.
This is a movie.
No, but I'm saying
This
like
is
this
the
is
movie.
The movie.
This is the movie.
Oh, I thought you said
It's the
this is the-
only Oscar-nominated Rocky movie. Am I correct by saying that?
Well, he got nominated for Creed, but yeah, like as far as like Best Picture.
As far as best, yeah. I mean, this is the one that really gave credence and gave, actual worthiness to the Rocky film franchise, because the other ones became a little bit more popcorny.
Yeah, they became more of an
not in a bad way,
Progressively.
but
I think by number 4.
we'll get into it, man. A little bit of caramel popcorniness. But either way, this is the movie that really started it all. And it really goes back to America's fascination with boxing. And obviously, you're a boxing fan, like an actual sports boxing fan, because I've been following the sport for years. And you've been following it as well. And we're all fans of it. But it is that kind of like typical story that you see in a real life boxing story. I think that's why it resonated so much with audiences, because it felt so real, and because the character of Stallone, of Rocky Balboa, felt like an actual boxer that you can relate to. That's the biggest thing for me, man, because as someone who's been keeping up with the sport of boxing, it really is like these types of people, the Balboas, the Rockies, really do exist, man. Like it really, boxing is a sport that, and I mean, I'm not trying to, every time I put like pretenses before saying certain statements that people might get mad at. But it really is like boxing is a sport that really does cater towards lower income type people. Like it really does. Like it's still to this day.
All you need is this.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying like
I know, that's
it
what I'm
really
saying.
caters towards people who are very poor. Like New York, Bronx areas is like where it became famous, and that's a lot of poor people there. And then Rocky talks about in Philadelphia, like the poor areas of Philadelphia, and people like Rocky who don't really have like this huge educational background or huge income, kind of cater to this sport that is much more physical than almost any other sport in the world. It's one of the most physical sports ever, where it's pure athleticism and pure technique that you can just pick up quickly, and it's a quick way to kind of get off the street, I guess, so to say, because there's that vibe that kind of goes with living on the streets and living in the hood.
Well,
that kind of goes with that, and I think that's the biggest thing that my takeaway is from Rocky, is the fact that he represents that vibe, and I love that because it's a character you can root for, and he comes from that poorer background.
Well, sports stars are different back then. Back then, like Mickey Mantle lived like a few blocks from you in the neighborhood. Like these guys today, Durant comes in the club, he's rolling 15 deep. There's an entourage. Back then, the champion of the heavyweight champion of the world might be a guy who lives around the corner from you, or used to live around the corner from you.
I don't
you
think
run
it's
to him
even
in the
back
bar.
then, though, man. Even Floyd Mayweather, man, he grew up poor in Detroit, like real poor.
I
in
understand
Detroit.
that, but when they get nowadays,
when they get big.
big,
There's so much more money
they're
involved
in,
now.
they're in a
Sure.
mansion. They're driving $100,000 cars.
But I'm saying like most major boxers, like Roy, I forget his last name.
Roy Jones Jr.?
Roy Jones Jr. Like all these guys came from kind of poor backgrounds.
Yeah.
So and then they rise and then they get the money.
Yeah.
But it really is that kind of mentality, and I like how Stallone really showed that in this movie. That's my biggest takeaway from it. I'll pass it over to Mr. Notes, man.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of notes. I mean, I think, for one, I think Rocky's one of the most brilliant films ever made. And I think the reason it being that is because it's kind of caught in between it's kind of it's anti-consumerism to some extent, because what it really does is highlights the sport of boxing as a marketing scheme to some extent, right? Having Apollo Creed set up this fight so it could be marketed as the January 4th, 1976, which is also the bicentennial, which is 200 years since the Independence Day. And the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So he uses that and exploits that as a marketing scheme. And I think the way that the place of a normal citizen kind of being caught in the middle of that to some extent with Rocky is very, very deep and powerful. I think it also has a lot. I mean, it has a lot to say about a lot of things. I think, like you said, like poverty, particularly with especially with poor, uneducated people, right? Particularly in somewhere like Philadelphia, that's one of the most rural working class areas, and especially during the 70s. And Rocky is somebody who engages trying to be, who's just trying to make a living. He's just somebody who's trying to survive. He's just breaking thumbs because that's all he could. That's the only way you can make money. And that's the only opportunities that he's given. So Rocky's not smart. He's not educated. He's from this poor community. It will be very easy for somebody like Rocky to be prejudiced too, right? Because when you're coming from poor, mostly white communities, a lot of times the racism is kind of deep-seated in that as well. But Stallone subverts that when they're in the bar and one of the bartenders says like jigger or something like that. He's like, hey, don't use that word. So it does show some sort of humanity to him. And he doesn't look at Apollo Creed. He doesn't, like, for me, I watch films very carefully, from a black perspective, right? And at least for me, I didn't catch anything that Rocky, at least any attitudes that Rocky might have had towards Creed that was like rooted in any sort of prejudice or any of that sense. Rocky seems like a very nice-hearted guy. So it's just it's a lot of that. It's also the metaphor of Muhammad Ali being represented, and the Apollo character, and how but it also kind of contradicts that too, because Muhammad Ali was very not anti-American, but he didn't stand for a lot of the patriotic values that were prevalent during his time, whereas Apollo does. He is the pro-America guy. It's just fascinating. There's all these different dichotomies that this movie is kind of firing off on. But at the heart of the story, it is just a basic romance movie between Adrian and Rocky. And I think almost to some extent, if you take the boxing stuff out of it, it's almost just as powerful of a movie. Too.
But I mean, obviously, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I can say that about all these Rocky movies. Rewatching them, I'm like, yo, this is a romance movie. This is a drama about Rocky and dealing with issues with his wife. Like, that's literally the entire Rocky franchise to me, and I think that's a great part. I don't know if you have anything to add to.
Yeah, the first Rocky movie, like, I think people forget, he's not like a 20-year-old up-and-coming boxer. He's towards the end of his career.
That's right, because Mickey always calls him old.
He's like, you wasted your time, being some thumb breaker for a loan shark. And the movie, to me, really is about not giving up no matter like what stage of life you're at. And he touches more on that heavily with Rocky Balboa. But this one is literally like, it's supposed to be kind of like his last chance to prove to people that he could have been somebody.
Right. He doesn't even want to win the
contender.
Fight. Yeah, he didn't even want to win the fight. He just wanted to.
He wanted to just go the distance, so he's not just another bum off the street. And don't forget, the first time the promoter brings Rocky in, he thinks he's going in for a sparring. He thinks he's going to be hired to be a spar for Apollo Creed, and then the promoter goes, he wants to fight you. And Rocky's immediate response is no. Any boxer would be like, oh my God, shot the title? Yes. Oh my God, I want that shot. Rocky's immediately goes, nah, I don't think that'd be a very good fight. He's like, this guy's the best. I just fight in this like small little things. And I think at the end of the day, the reason why I took it was just because it wasn't something that he wanted, but he's like, maybe, make some good money for myself. Me and Adrian, I can help me and Adrian out. Like, but then as the fight gets closer and closer, he's training, he's getting these montages. And he starts thinking to himself, he comes to that realization when he's at the stadium and he sees that they got the trunks wrong. It was supposed to be,
yeah.
And the promoter
Very
goes,
powerful scene.
And the promoter's like, it doesn't really matter, does it? And right then he knows, I can't win this fight.
Yeah.
He fooled himself to think that he could win it, I think. And he realized, I can't win this.
Yeah.
He's like, but no one's ever gone a distance with Creed.
Yeah.
I might not be able to outbox him. I might not be able to out-punch him. But if I could just be standing at the end of that bell, I'll do something no one else has done. And to me, that is like, again, the love story is a huge part of it. But to me, that's just everything what Rocky's all about.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I really do love that take from it too. And I mean, obviously the ending is crazy, with the whole Adrian, and he's like,
he doesn't
looking
even
in.
care. He doesn't want to hear what the decision is.
Yeah.
And the fact that Apollo took that so much to heart because he didn't give him enough credit. He was not expecting that.
I mean,
so.
Apollo was just there to make some money, and he just didn't want to cancel the fight. And he picked Rocky because of his name, Italian Stallion.
Yeah.
He's like, sounds like a damn monster movie.
Yeah.
And then I love Tony Duke because he's like, I don't want you fighting no southpaw. He's like, southpaw, nothing. I'll drop him in 3.
Yeah.
And that first round when Rocky puts him down, it's like Apollo's like, whoa, what? And from that point on, it's really a beatdown.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel, I mean, obviously we just started our conversation. Is this the best Rocky movie in the Rocky film franchise?
Easy, bro.
Yeah.
Easy.
Really?
Easy.
It is.
Interesting.
Easy.
For me, it's pretty much a no-brainer. For me, like Rocky 3 and 4 are like the gateway drug. Like you're a kid, you're just watching these awesome montages and like Mr. T and Thunderlips, Hulk Hogan's in there. And it's not until you get older and you start going back watching like the actual movies that started out, like Rocky, Rocky 2, and you're like, oh, these are fantastic
This is
movies.
serious dramas.
Yeah.
Like.
This has the highest rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, won Best Picture against,
Network.
Network.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah, exactly.
All the President's Men.
Yeah, I was just gonna list those off, and
it won Best Picture against those guys.
Yes, and,
that's wild.
And a lot of people. There's a poll out there. I forget who conducted the poll, but there's a poll out there where people rank the 10 worst Best Picture nominees, and Rocky is like number 9 or something like that.
Worst.
So so
who's
a lot, but
doing this poll?
I have to find that. Let me find it. But,
Dumb people.
But to me, what I think the whole stigma around the Rocky franchise has kind of tainted the reputation
I kind of agree with
the first film. But if you really go back and watch that first film, it's not just a great movie. It's actually a masterpiece in the way that Rocky handles. Like there's so much characterization in Rocky himself. The way he talks to who's the girl? Marie. The way he talks to Marie and kind of gives her his life perspective, but he's just kind of like dumb, like rambling on about kind of nothing for the most part. That's brilliant characterization. I think the direction of this was one of the first movies to use Steadicams. And the way they instituted that kind of technology added a new fluidity. It kind of set the definition for the way boxing films are going to be shot from that point forward. And so it did a lot for cinema in general. I just think the sequels have kind of gave the first one this reputation.
Sure, of being cheesy and over the top.
Yeah, but the first one
wasn't.
It's not, and I think especially when you're looking at when it came out, especially comparing it to movies like Network, to movies like Taxi Driver, All the President's Men, all those movies kind of had really dark endings. Network is a movie about corrupt news, which was a comedy when it was made, but now is seen as fucking realistic.
Taxi Driver is crazy.
Taxi Driver is crazy about a sociopathic veteran who Rocky does end up going to play in the Rambo franchise.
Oh, that's true.
And All the President's Men is about the Watergate scandal, and at least those documents. So these are 3 like very cynical, dark movies. Rocky was the only film that came out during that year that was nominated for Best Picture that had a happy ending.
It was a crowd pleaser.
It was a crowd pleaser.
I mean, like not everyone's gonna want to go see Taxi Driver or Social Network. I think Best Picture. Did I say Social Network? Did I say Social Network?
Yeah.
Oh man, that would have blown their minds as they saw
Jesse
that.
Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. No,
What did I say? Network, Taxi Driver, All President's Men.
Yeah, I agree with you, RB3. Like for some reason, the critics think that just because it's a feel-good movie, it's not as good as the other movies.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
National Board of Review just released their Best Picture nominee today for Best Film of the Year, and it was Green Book.
Really?
Interesting.
Oh,
I
okay.
still haven't seen it.
And I saw it this past weekend, and it's a good movie, and it's a feel-good movie.
There you go.
Like, it's something that not everyone's gonna want to go
Sure.
see. Some of these darker films
It
are
is
coming
kind
out.
of a good point, and I've fallen into that boat. I can't lie, I've probably jumped into that. I just did the whole like favorite films of 2010s on Twitter. The everyone has been retweeting, and I was like, I want to do this, and I noticed that all mine were really dark. Nightcrawler, Prisoners.
Sing Street was my favorite film of the year befest, and like that's one of the best most feel-good movies I've seen in years.
Yeah.
So to me, I have no problem making a feel-good movie.
That's a good point. There's something about it, man. There's something about these Rocky movies that do make you feel inspired. Like, that word has been so overused when it comes to movies, but it really does kind of originate from Rocky. I feel like no movie makes you feel inspired quite as much as Rocky movies.
Well, you see, like, it's the Rocky of hockey movies. It's like it's a reference now. Yeah. Like, it's the Rocky of this. It's the Rocky of that. That just shows you how influential the film was. Same way with Die Hard. Oh, it's Die Hard on a boat. It's Die Hard on a bus.
That's true.
When a movie kind of breaks the mold, it gets mentioned when other movies are just somewhat like it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rocky 2, which picks up right after Rocky 1.
Wait, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, we got
Rocky
8 movies to get to, man.
I'm sorry. Just one more thing. I kind of have a question that I would like to pose to you guys.
Sure.
Like I said, Rocky represents the poor white community facing against the Muhammad Ali kind of stand-in.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare it to the whole Jeff Johns versus
Jeff Johns from DC?
What am I saying, man?
Who's Jeff Johns?
No. Jeffrey Johnson versus
Joe
whatever.
Frazier?
It's one of those like old like 1920s fights. But there's the whole Great White Hope versus that whole situation. And a lot of people would interpret Rocky today as being a more, I guess, representing the community that represents. Do you think that he would be, in today's context, do you think he would be like a racist, or would he be a Trump supporter to some extent? Because a lot of the...
What do you mean? You're saying if it was set now?
If it was set now, the community that Rocky...
Because I don't think Rocky deals with it, the way his character is built. He doesn't worry about politics. He doesn't worry about what's going on in another country. He really just cares about him, his friends, and like what he could do to get a meal in himself for the next week, or what he could do to I think he's a much simpler person. Like, yes, he's dumb, but at the end of the day, he's simple. He's just a guy from the streets who's happy where he's at, as far as like living in his little neighborhood. I don't think he had these dreams of being like an entrepreneur and being a millionaire.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I feel like Rocky, we see a little bit of it when he gets screwed from his accountant.
But
Obviously,
then
it's not
you're
a good
talking
movie.
Rocky 5.
I know, but it's still
I'm
Rocky.
talking about the first Rocky.
And the first Rocky...
You're saying that the first Rocky is made today.
Here's my answer to your question. I think boxing is so ingrained within the African-American community that there's just... dude, nowadays, man, you gotta, like... realize just like so many sports nowadays where this is something that you guys are in together. Like, there isn't us versus them. It's literally all of us within this sport, and we're all brothers in it. So I think Rocky gets that. The character of Rocky would get that now, and the character of Rocky got that back in 1976.
I feel like
he trained with black people. He hanged out with them. Like, this was part of their community, even though he did grow up in the Philly Italian area.
But do you think all Trump supporters are like? You don't have to be you don't have to be racist to be a Trump supporter.
That's true.
No.
You
That's very true.
You can feel cheated by the system. Do you think Rocky felt cheated?
I think no one represents the system more than Trump. So I think you're asking the wrong person.
That's what I'm saying.
I think he would realize that. He's like, wait a minute, this guy is the system.
But he's not. But Rocky's not smart.
But here's Stephen Caple Jr. was asked why he put in some of the political stuff with Russia right now into this movie.
Yeah,
and he was just like, he was just like, I didn't want to do that because, like, I want this movie to stand on its own 20 years from now. I don't need people to watch it and be like, what was going on in Russia?
Well, I told you before the movie came out, I wanted to see a more positive perspective on the Russian community, just because I feel like it's become too, like, I was literally just talking to someone, which is why I'm dressed like this, about like the whole idea of like picking a side now, that the left versus the right, like the right has the Palestinians and the left has the Israelis. The opposite of that. The right is with the Israelis and the left is with the Palestinians. It's like, what about the Jewish people that this, and what about that? Like, it's like all this weird disconnection that people pick sides now when it comes to race and when it comes to nationality, and I think that's being held against the Russian people, and there's so many great Russian people out there that I feel like the whole, like, all the Russians, and it's like, you're just as bad as as the right who's been saying about all the Mexicans. Like, it's just as bad.
I think Creed 2 does a good job of
I think it does a great job because I felt
painting him as a villain, a villain.
Yeah, I felt like, man, I really connect to that guy. Even though he's just giant monster buff guy, white guy from Russia, I still connected to him.
Yeah.
And I'm a little Mexican guy.
I mean, in Rocky 4, it was the Cold War. I could understand why they would do that.
Sure.
You're literally almost at war with these people.
We'll get into that. Are you good? You ready for
one last thing. I'll shut the fuck up. I swear. Is Adrian retarded?
What? In Rocky 1?
Yeah.
She's shy.
They
literally ask if she's retarded. He goes, no, she's just shy.
She's not. I wouldn't use that word. RB3.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is she mentally challenged?
No,
she's just. I feel like she's like Rocky. I feel like she doesn't have like this huge connection to having a educational background and being a bookworm.
In the ice rink, she's like, you don't have much of a body, so you should use your brain. And Rocky said, his father said, you don't got much of a brain, so you should use your body.
Sure.
I think she's really smart, actually.
And I think she just grew up in certain circumstances throughout her household and throughout her community.
That's what I was gonna.
I think there's so many Adrians now, man. That's why I feel like she's such a relatable character because there's so many of them, like just sweethearts that grow up in really kind of like these communities that are kind of
Paulie
destroyed. Like Paulie is a perfect example.
Well, Paulie throughout the first Rocky movie, you get the attention that he's been putting her down every day.
Yeah.
She has no self-confidence.
Yeah.
And when she finally meets Rocky, she stands up to Paulie.
Yeah, like
she breaks out of her shell, and so like this thing that was kind of crippling her, the shyness, the self-consciousness, is broken, and she's actually becomes to be the woman that she wants to be.
I like that because it really is like I think it's more shyness than anything. You're right. It's that idea of like her womanhood not coming to fruition because of the community that she grew up in, and because of Paulie, and because of this kind of vibe that she grew up with, and
you get put down every day.
Yeah, and
you just start thinking less of yourself.
And she's super pretty, and she's super sweet, and she's super like in her own way smart, and
by Rocky
brings
3,
so
she's a
much.
fox.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Tell you shit.
Come on, RB3. No, but,
well, I mean, that's a legitimate. That's a criticism that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people's thing against the first Rocky.
I've never heard that.
I don't think it should be. If anything,
every conversation I have about Rocky is like,
if anything, that's credit to the first Rocky for being. To me, I was like, this is so realistic. Like I could see this girl like in real life because she's not this like over the top like super nerdy smart girl or bossy sassy girl. Like she's a real shy normal girl who I've met a million of them before, and that to me is more relatable than a stereotypical boxer's wife.
Somebody said that to me. I'd be like, you need to watch a movie again. Sit down, put your phone away, and actually watch it. Because I don't know how you walk away with that assessment.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. People, I mean,
I'm with a lot of people say that.
Those people are dumb.
Well, I think I gotta tell you, being at USC, like, there's a lot of people who are not the biggest supporters of Rocky just because of. I mean, they just don't like it. So I don't. So
it's just old for people. I feel like the people you're talking about. They just is it because it's too old?
Maybe because I think it's probably too slow. It's not a movie where you probably go expecting a boxing movie.
Is that what you're saying about Rocky, bro?
No.
What are you trying to say? Too slow?
The movie is literally, it's a lot of dialogue, walking. Like it's a character piece.
I'm kidding, guys.
It is straight up a character piece, and it's a very slow film.
Yeah.
So I can see people watching it nowadays, like especially kids, just getting bored.
Sure.
But I think as you actually come appreciation for storytelling, acting, and filmmaking, you watch it, you'll come away and be like, this movie's amazing.
Yeah. Let's move on to Rocky 2, which picks up right after Rocky 1. Rocky and Apollo meet up in the hospital. Right away, Apollo is challenging him to a next fight, and Rocky's just chill. He's like, I'm gonna retire, man. That's the best I've ever done. I'm good.
Yeah.
I just want to settle down with my girlfriend, who then immediately becomes his wife because he proposes in that really awkward zoo scene.
Yeah.
Which is a funny proposal. But I like Rocky 2, man. I rewatched this one the most recently. Maybe that's why I like it. But I like the connection that, speaking of Adrian, that Adrian and Rocky have throughout this entire movie, because this is a movie that talks about Rocky trying to make money without boxing, so he tries to do commercials. He gets back into the meat industry, and he realizes that boxing is what he's good at and is what he has to do. But beyond that, Rocky 2 is entirely, for me, a drama and a romance movie. It's just literally about Rocky and Adrian, and Rocky trying to become a man in the sense of a husband and a provider. Because at the end of the day, I was thinking about it watching this movie. At the end of the day, you can be a buff, masculine dude who can beat the shit out of anyone, but nothing is more masculine than being the provider in your family, or being the husband that can provide for his wife. Being that's the most, like, you could be a buff guy who can beat the shit out of anyone, but if you're a broke dude who your wife is like helping you out, you're like low key like demasculated. And I'm obviously talking about like
What the hell?
Hey,
What are we talking about? First of all, hold on.
That
whole
I know 2018 is 2018,
I know,
but I'm talking about 1978.
That's what I'm
right?
saying. If you're talking
And back in 1978.
No, yeah. See, that's where I want to make sure people are understanding. You're not talking about today.
If you're not, no, I'm not.
And that's why I think Creed 2
Like-
does a great job making Bianca have her own thing.
Sure.
Like,
but I'm
she's-
saying, like, it's to me, I like this movie because it talks about that. Hey, I'm being real, man.
Yeah,
I don't
I
hold
like it.
back. This is my podcast.
Yo, that's what's up, man.
That's what's up, man. I'm saying
keep
you
it
want
100.
to give your girlfriend some money, man. You want to buy her stuff. You want to make her feel like she's yours and that you can provide for her. Like, that to me is like
JTE.
what, man?
like, she's yours.
Yeah. What?
No, I got you.
But that's
real.
That's the idea of what the patriarchy is.
It is, man.
That's-
It is the patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's the idea of, like, I'm a guy who's like freaking 6'3", 220, and I can beat the shit out of anyone. But man, I can't even afford to buy something for my wife. Like, for real, like that's a real struggle, man.
Yeah, that's real for a lot of people.
That's real for a lot of people,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Why are you guys laughing at me? This is so real.
I think the message is a lot for me in the movie, watching it a million times. It's really about doing what you love in a lot of ways. I
Sure.
think Creed 2 even has Creed 2 parallels Rocky 2 in a lot of ways.
It does. Sure. It really does.
When Bianca's like, why do you need to take this fight again? He's like, I love doing this.
Yeah.
This is what I love doing. I
Yeah.
don't know how to do anything else. And I think that's what Rocky realizes in Rocky 2. Like, he tries to get a job. People won't give him
But
a
a
chance.
lot of it has to do with Adrian, man. I feel like there's not. I mean, as much as you're saying that, I really do feel like his mentality, even when
Is to
boxing,
provide.
is still
But,
Adrian.
But
like, he's-
Adrian is literally telling him not to fight throughout the whole
but I'm
movie.
saying, like, he really does have such a deep connection to her that he really feels like, man, this is what I can do, not only to please myself, but to, like, provide for my family.
Yeah,
like,
100% that's part of
That
it.
to
Especially
me
with
is
a kid
like,
coming into it.
with a kid, like, he just feels like, man, I got a family now. Like, I got a wife,
but
bro.
he tells her he will not fight because she has the kid.
True.
He is willing to give it all up for that kid.
True.
So for me, yeah, he would provide. He wants to do it for provider. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if she woke up and was like, "I don't want to take the fight," he would have canceled it right there.
Sure.
So-
but I do feel like this movie talks a lot about that marriage, man, just marriage, and I really feel like that's such an underrated aspect of movies nowadays because marriage is such a big part of it.
Well,
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, kind of going off of your quote.
Yeah,
There's a
y'all
quote.
give me way too much.
No,
shit
no,
for
no,
that.
no, no, no. I will say this. I mean, what you're saying actually does have merit in the philosophy of Stallone, because when he was doing interviews for Rocky, he was quoted as saying
Rocky
in
1 or 2?
Rocky 1.
Okay.
One of the interviewers asked him, "What do you?" I'm sorry. One of the interviewers asked, "Do you portray is Stallone as masculine?" The exact question is he as machismo off screen as he is on? And Stallone replied, "If machismo means I like to look good and feel strong and shoot guns in the woods, then yes, I'm machismo. I don't think there's that. Let me start this again. I don't think that even women's limbs want all men to become limp-wristed librarians." So that's a window into the philosophy of the time.
again, this is
1970s.
70s.
Yeah, 78.
Listen,
78.
I totally
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
That makes
I just don't feel like
total sense to me. I don't know about you guys.
I
but
just
that
don't
makes
feel
total
like the
sense to
movie
me.
is saying, "Hey, woman, let me go do my job while you stay home and take care
I
of the
didn't
kid."
say that at all, bro.
Oh, no, I know. That's not what
I
I'm
said
saying.
being a provider for your family. What's so bad about that?
But I don't think that's the message of the movie.
I think him being something more now that he has someone special in his life. I think that is part of the message in the movie. It really
Well,
does
he
have to
definitely-
be.
there's the
that
angle.
connection to Adrian
Yeah.
to me is deeper in Rocky 2 than it is in Rocky. It begins in Rocky 1, but it really deepens where he's like, man, I got a family now. I got a wife now. Like that's a
for sure.
real man kind of decision making to do. Like as a man, you really think about that kind of stuff. I don't know. As me, I don't even have a girlfriend, for crying out loud, and you guys do.
I
And
don't. What are you
hey
talking
man,
about? Hey, don't be
hey,
putting me out there. What are you doing? Jesus Christ.
Putting you on blast. Bro. You better have a girlfriend, RB3. No, I'm playing. But for me, it's like that's such a real thing. Where even me, as someone who's a man, I think about that. I think about like, man, if I get a wife, you got to step up your game, bro.
One of my favorite things in Rocky 2 is pissed off Apollo Creed. Because that first one, he's taken as a joke. He's just like, every time you see him, he's like, yeah, we'll do this. Guess someone there. Oh, I like that name. Part 2, he's like reading letters, yelling at his wife. He's like, you reading this stuff? He's like,
reading the hate mail. It reminded me of like, bro, if Apollo was in nowadays, reading the comments on YouTube.
Yeah,
and
on
stuff.
YouTube, yeah.
Or even like ESPN for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's why I love Apollo in that movie because he is pissed.
Yeah.
He wants that fight so bad, and he is like, do whatever you gotta do to get this guy in the ring.
Right.
I'm gonna embarrass him, and I like seeing that different Apollo from the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's insulting Rocky. They're putting like cartoons and newspapers.
Yeah.
Like he's literally like, you are a coward if you don't fight me.
Well, Creed is the ultimate marketer, and I think that's
so good. That's a good point.
Well, there's a great scene where they go, if you take this tactic, you'll be viewed as a villain.
Yeah.
Paul's like, villain, nothing. I don't care. Whatever gets him in the ring.
Right.
Because he feels like people making these comments, these letters, like, you should have lost that fight.
Right.
Like, he's like, I took that fight lightly.
Right.
I'm going to come at this guy with everything I got in this fight. And to me, it's like, oh, shit. It's on.
Yeah.
The first one was a surprise.
Right.
Now it's on.
Yeah, and you feel the stakes because Creed has much more on the line.
Oh.
He has to defend his not defend his title because he didn't lose his title,
honor.
but he has to defend his honor.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, Rocky feels like he was cheated in that too. So it's like it's like double. It's like it's like the two. It's like an unstoppable force meeting like a
movable object.
Again,
That's great.
Very familiar with Creed 2. He still has a championship, but no one thinks he's the champion.
Right.
Because Victor Drago punches him while he's on the ground.
Right.
He gets his ass kicked, but he retains the title because of a penalty.
Which I thought was very interesting. That was kind of one of the more interesting things about Creed 2. Yeah, and even like, you expect him to lose, but the fact that he won the fight and still lost, that's like a flip on the first Rocky where he lost but he really won.
In Rocky 2, he's dealing with the same thing that Creed's doing in Creed 2. That's why I was like, dude, this parallels Rocky 2 quite a bit.
Yeah,
I like Creed 2, man. I feel like this is an underrated Rocky movie. What do you think?
Rocky 2 or Creed 2?
Rocky 2, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Rocky 2, man. I don't get why it's not as well loved as the other Rocky movies.
I think Rocky 2, the end fight, is maybe one of, if not the best fights of all the movies because they perfected it. The first one, it's a little rough.
Yeah.
Low budget. There's even times you can see there's nobody in the audience.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky 2, like, there was never a boxing match filmed quite like that before that.
Yeah.
It literally set the bar for boxing fights. You go back and watch it, that double 10 count where they're both down, I mean, it's enthralling. I love it. Every time I watch it, and it's two totally different styles against each other. A slugger versus just a pure speed and power guy.
Yeah.
And I don't care. In any of the other Rocky movies, there's no point where I watched a fight like Rocky 2 where I saw two guys in the last round that were completely running on empty.
Yeah.
At the end of that fight, they're just like,
both the actors, Stallone and Carl Weathers.
Dude, they went hard.
And
they went harder than the first one. But the second one, they were like, we got to step it up. And they did.
Were the punches real?
I don't know.
Some connected, I'm sure. But at the end of Rocky 2, you just see two guys who've given everything they have in the tank. And it literally comes down to the point where Rocky punches him and he falls down and can't get up.
Yeah.
And Apollo's just like, to me, that's what makes it like the most. I mean, Rocky's about willpower.
Yes.
And I don't think there's more willpower than any of the fights in a Rocky 2.
Yes.
What do you think about Rocky 2, man?
I love Rocky 2.
Before we move on to Clubber Lang.
It's actually closer to Rocky 1 than it. To me, I would almost put Rocky 2 over Rocky 1. I think the beginning.
Really?
But the beginning of Rocky 2 isn't as strong to me as the beginning of Rocky 1.
It's like, you mean the very beginning where they literally pick up from Rocky 1?
Well, I mean, they show. I mean, every Rocky movie starts with the clips from the last one.
Yeah.
But I mean, like just the way it starts. I mean, I feel like the first
proposal to the baby.
Yeah, it goes.
It's more the Adrian storyline,
where I feel like,
which is what I was talking about.
Yeah, well, the first Rocky kind of it has to introduce who Rocky is, so you get a lot of those good character moments with him.
And Paulie's storyline is as good in Rocky 2. He's kind of more pushed aside.
And and Paulie Paulie said the N word in Rocky 3, right?
Oh,
I don't
did
think
he?
so.
Yeah,
No.
or somebody said in Rocky 3.
don't
I'm pretty sure Paulie did say it.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
about
yeah.
Oh my God.
95% sure the N-word was never mentioned
I
in a Rocky
want
movie.
to see that.
I've seen those movies more than I could count.
If that
And
is the case, that is
He
hysterical.
might have used a different word, but it definitely wasn't the N-word.
Hold up. Let me see here. I'll figure it out.
Let's
But
move
yeah,
on.
no,
I'm here for your Rocky fans.
But since that's not in Rocky 2, I can't use that against Rocky 2. But I love Rocky 2.
Rocky 3 is when the Rocky franchise really bulks up, to say the least, because freaking Sylvester Stallone looks like a chiseled statue in this one.
He's getting there.
Dude,
Yeah.
Rocky 4 is where he really gets.
yeah, Rocky 4, but Rocky 3, I was like, dude, you were like pretty solid in Rocky 1.
Well,
better shape in Rocky 2. Rocky 3, you look like you did some roids.
He just Rocky 3 is like, I just shot Rambo First Blood Part 2. Like, I got some more muscle.
But Rocky 3 is, I love Rocky 3, man, because Rocky
Maybe the
3,
most entertaining.
It
All of them.
probably is, because it not only does it bring in my favorite dynamic, which is the Apollo Creed and Rocky dynamic, and the training that they do together. I love that. I love the idea of your former rival coming together to train you to be another guy who's better than both of you. Like, that idea to me is so cool. Right. And the training montage is probably my favorite. Clubber Lang.
Which one? The beach one?
I love that. I think it's so great. I love Clubber Lang. I think he's the perfect amount of like over the top awesomeness.
Can you imagine?
It's so good, man.
Not knowing who Mr. T is. Like, you never heard of Mr. T.
I can't.
And then you went and saw Rocky 3 that weekend.
And
you were like, who the F is this guy? This is the most badass mofo I've ever seen.
Yeah. I
mean,
love the way Mickey hypes him up in this movie too. It's so good, dude. You feel like this is the movie where you don't feel like you're fighting a fighter. It feels like you're fighting like a dangerous monster or something.
This movie starts off with Eye of the Tiger, first of all.
Yeah.
With a great montage.
I think probably one of my favorite montages
is that one.
Yeah.
Where they're doing Eye of the Tiger. It just shows like
with the flashing
the
lights.
commercials.
Yeah. It really established the setting for me. You know.
Well, it shows you how Rocky has changed in a great way. He's become civilized. He's become famous. He's doing commercials.
He's starting to embrace the money a little bit.
Yeah.
And
then they cut to in Chicago,
Yeah.
you got Clubber Lang in these small venues just knocking dudes through the ropes. He sees Mickey in the audience. He's like, "You tell Balboa I'm coming for him." And Mickey's like, literally scared the shit out of him. Great setup to that movie. Rocky 3 is.
I mean, the Mickey stuff too is great. I mean, the whole like Mickey being down and out and like him like avenging Mickey and all that. Like, that's so good too. Him like talking shit about Adrian.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah,
when he starts talking about your wife.
Yeah. See,
I was like, bro,
that's why I
don't
love
you
it.
talk about
Hey,
my
woman.
wife.
Yeah.
Bitch, you're missing real man.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I got a real man. Yeah.
Dude.
I
When
love-
he starts
I
and
love
when
that.
Rocky gets pissed, he's, don't you talk about. I was
Don't
like,
give that man no
shit.
statue. Give him heart. You've been ducking me for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His
it's
mind is
phenomenal.
incredible. See,
So good.
I feel like Rocky 3 is like the perfect level of like cheesiness while also being
Inspirational
Yeah,
and Rocky.
Yeah, still
Yeah.
holding to Rocky conditions.
Well, those first two are such 70s films.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is like an 80s movie.
80s movie.
Yeah.
Like 3 and 4 are pure 80s.
Yeah.
1 and 2 are pure 70s.
What does Clubber Lang rank as far as your favorite villains in Rocky? He
Number
ranks
one.
high for me,
Number
dude.
one.
I would,
because
I would
I
say
never-
number one too.
It's tough.
I
Because
would
here's
say
the thing.
number one, dude.
I don't
He's my
see
favorite.
I don't see Apollo as a villain in the first film.
No. he's
Part
not.
2, he becomes a little bit of a villain.
Because there's Drago, Tommy Gunn, who we all love.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan is a
Also,
villain.
I thought that scene is
Thunder
hilarious
Lips.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thunder
Well, isn't
Lips.
that 4 though? I think that's 4.
Is that 4?
Yeah, that's 4.
Okay, I tripped out.
Yeah.
Clubber, Clubber is pretty
He's probably the
phenomenal, man.
best one.
Yeah.
I say he's the best.
I say Clubber Lang's
We
the
He,
best.
declare
but
it.
Clubber is the best villain, but he's not the best boxer.
True.
Like
Yeah,
he's just a guy that
He's
goes
just the
and throws
best shit talker.
haymakers.
He's the best
Yeah.
shit talker.
He's a great shit talker. And he just goes in and throws haymakers nonstop.
Yeah.
Like, I think one thing I like about Rocky 4, we'll get into it, is that Drago was that, but he had the skill also. Like, he was just a machine built
Sure.
to box.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, that's one thing. And the one thing I love about Rocky 3 is like he changed his style completely.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't go toe to toe with this guy.
Yeah, you have to be
I
fast.
have to outlast him, and he's like, this guy's never got more than 3 rounds, so I'm just gonna box him and try to survive. And
Was
he'll wear
Tyson
out.
around during this movie, or was Tyson
Awesome.
after?
No,
question.
Tyson was after.
After, okay. Because I was gonna
Late
say he had like a
80s.
Tyson vibe to him.
Late
Clubber
80s when
Lang
Tyson
did.
started really coming
Yeah.
to prominence.
The 80s.
Because that's the style he had. Because Tyson was known for being like a
Yeah.
monster
Yeah.
and someone who can like not. He could just beat you in 30 seconds. Like he doesn't need like
Yeah.
a round.
Yeah, I love the way they handle Clubber in this movie, and I think the way that we see Rocky not wanting to fight anyway, like, and I
scared.
think, and that's why, and I think he's scared, and Mickey is scared for him, and even more to the fact, I think it just shows you that even though Rocky does have this money, this success, he still is kind of rooted in family, like he still does care about his family, and he's a pretty like wholesome, down to earth guy for the most part. But then when Clubber pushes you, and when some like you say, Ace, when somebody like comes at your wife, bro,
Oh,
like,
bro, you got to go for
Yeah,
it. See,
like that-
see,
see-
now you could go agree with the man stuff, bro.
Yeah, well,
as a man,
as
a man.
I think, but yeah, I think that's that's crucial, and I think him getting inside the ability of
Sure.
Clubber Lang to get inside of Rocky's head is insane, considering that Creed was also the ultimate shit talker before,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to break Rocky, but this is.
Yeah.
You know what it is too, though, real quick. It's the idea of Rocky now being a successful boxer with money, with not the need to fight. He doesn't need to fight versus someone who's on the come up and who's
Yeah.
got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole idea of like nothing to lose versus everything to lose, kind of like Creed 2.
Right.
Yeah, Creed 2 definitely parallels Rocky 3 in a few
lot.
ways.
A
He was
lot.
afraid the first time he fought Victor.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And the
it's
same
the-
way Rocky was afraid the first time he fought.
And it's
Clubber
the
Lang.
idea of like Drago, like he fights in the streets, like he doesn't care, he's on the come up. Same with Clubber Lang. He's
Yep.
like a guy who's like, oh, he's hungry, he needs it.
Creed's
Versus
been
Rocky,
champ for a while.
Rocky is like, he's complacent, he's got his family, he's got a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Versus like Clubber Lang is like, bro, I'm here to kill or be killed. So please come at me.
Yeah.
It's great. I
He's
love it.
so animalistic too.
Yeah.
I love that scene when they're interviewing him before one of the fights, and it's just like him against that like white wall, all
Yeah.
these cameras, and he's just walking around like,
He's like,
Yeah.
get the camera out of here.
yeah.
And then the cockiness, like when he's watching TV and, do you accept Rocky Balboa's challenge? No, I do not accept his challenge because he is no challenge. But I will beat on him for a few more rounds if he'd like. I'm just like, God damn, this guy's badass.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
What's your prediction for the fight?
for the what?
What's your prediction for the fight?
What fight?
Pain.
Oh. I was like, what
Love
fight?
it.
Lang versus Creed?
And then one of my
Pain.
favorite, some of my
That's
favorite,
great.
some of my favorite shit talking is between Apollo and Mr. T and them.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
goes to shake his hand for respect. He goes, "Get out of here! I don't even know has been in my corner. You better take that look off your face while I knock it off. What? You want to jump, Creed? Come on, Creed, jump!"
And
Creed just walks away, and I'm like,
he goes up to
"Damn."
Rocky's like, kick his ass.
Kick his ass. Yeah. I was like, God damn, this guy doesn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. This has got to be one of the best Rocky movies. Just rethinking about
Yeah.
all this stuff.
It's the most entertaining.
It's
It
the
really
most fun.
is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
Well,
agree with that.
I said all that, but now we get to the best Rocky movie of all time, and that is Rocky 4.
We've come here, guys.
Rocky 4, where Rocky defeats the Soviet Union. He destroys freaking
Apollo Creed dead.
He destroys it all. He destroys communism by one fist, one
Yeah.
punch.
Yeah.
He does it all, man.
So
Is the
we
worst-
know somebody here doesn't like this movie.
Yeah.
So before
I'm the odd man out here.
I just want to hear, like, I'm legitimately curious to hear, like, listen, is it the best Rocky movie by far? No. But in the same way that Rocky 3 is entertaining, I think Rocky 4 is not as good of a movie as Rocky 3, but it is like just pure 80s MTV excess.
The fact
It is just like something you put on, and no matter what point you come in,
You're gonna have fun.
It's an easy entry at any time.
the fact that Apollo Creed comes out to a James
Brown.
Brown
Living
dance
in
number,
America.
That's-
you gotta give it the GOAT. It's the GOAT of Rocky
Drago is
movies.
he is basically the Terminator.
He is,
And
he's
he says
great
very
as
little.
the Terminator,
He has like 5 lines, and everyone
and he's scary as hell.
and everyone quotes those 5 lines.
Yeah.
Like, they're amazing.
if he dies, he dies.
He's like a piece of iron.
I must break. What is it? I must break you.
I must break you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Why don't you like
I
this
just don't
movie?
find.
I mean, listen, I get the robot's silly. It's dumb.
Yeah,
But
fucking
like,
robot.
what is
The
besides
robot's a
that?
side story. Come on.
It's just not. That's not even like.
Well,
That's just too bad to me.
What's
And
your
then
issues with the movie?
I just think it feels like Stallone forgot how to make a movie when this one came around. Like this movie is the runtime is 90 minutes. It's the shortest Rocky
Yep.
movie.
You got that comment by
zero.
one homie who said it was perfect.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think
a perfect movie. He
It's
said.
a perfect
Wait,
music
so do you
video.
not like the montage? Here's the thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
33% montage.
That's
30 out of 90 minutes of this movie is montage.
And I agree with you, but there's some of the best damn montages.
It's great.
Like if you have three music videos in your movie, but they're really good ass music videos, I'm gonna be like, okay, is this anything like Rocky 1 or 2? No. Is it as well rounded as Rocky 3? No. But oh my god, I'm having fun watching it.
I don't
Hearts
know,
on
man.
Fire is one of the best montages ever.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. The last montage
Is
is amazing.
amazing.
It's amazing.
It's
And that
amazing.
fight is amazing.
The
Yeah,
parallel
fight,
montage
yeah.
shit, bro. Come on.
Yeah, the parallel was nice, but I couldn't condone. What really lost this movie for me is after Apollo dies, we have that scene where Rocky's driving home.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
God.
driving home, and it's a montage.
One of my favorite
montage. of
Let me
him
tell you
driving.
something. The reason why it's amazing.
I forgot about that, but yeah.
That montage is the reason why I make a yearly video of all my favorite movies of the year.
Really?
I've been doing that for years now.
Uh-huh.
And it's because of Rocky 4, because I remember watching that movie and being like, holy shit.
You love montages,
I love-
right?
I love-
That's a good point.
but the fact that-
biggest Rocky fan ever
Yeah.
also makes
Well-
montages for fun.
Yeah. Watching that, it was the first time I ever saw a movie take 3 other films, including the movie that they're shooting.
Yeah.
And I almost felt like I was like, oh my God, I'm getting emotional from scenes from the first, second movie through this montage. This awesome song, No Easy Way Out by Roger Tepper, which is amazing.
Oh my god.
And I'm watching it and I'm just like, I've never seen anything like this in a movie. And it's awesome. It didn't work for you.
I can't.
What do you?
I can't. I don't-
Besides the montages, what do you think about the whole communism?
I just think
Soviet
it's so
Union,
bad. It's so bad to me. Like
80s,
it's so to me. It's so dated.
Red
and-
Scare.
Wait. Why is it dated to you?
Because it's like we ultimately come out of the Cold War and nothing happens.
Yeah,
right?
but you can't knock a movie for showing you what was happening at the time.
Yeah.
But even when it was happening, nothing was happening.
They were in the middle of a Cold War and it ended a couple of years
The
later.
Cold
but
War is
here's the thing: that we weren't at. It's not like Rocky was going to absolute war with somebody.
Yeah.
This happened. Goes back to Joe Louis fighting Max. I can't remember his last name. During World War II, Joe Louis fought Max Weidenberg or something like that. And literally, this guy who fought for Germany and this guy who fought for America, it was one of the most famous matches ever because they were at war with each other. Now, we weren't at physical war with Russia, but it was pretty bad. It wasn't good. We had a lot of blood. So to have 2 people in a ring representing like that conflict, it's nothing new. It's literally taken from history. Same way Stallone took the Ali Chuck Wepner fight and used it as a basis for the first Rocky movie. He took that Joe Louis fight with Max from World War II and just kind of moved it into like Rocky 4 in a lot of ways. So for me, it's happened before.
Yeah, I mean, I get the metaphor. I get what they're trying to go for. I don't think the idea of, for one, I don't think the idea of combating communism is just a thing that should have happened, a thing that should have been propagated to Americans to begin with, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
but
that's
this movie's not getting that much into politics. This
Yeah,
is literally the icing on the cake.
But it's the crescendo of the politics. It's the crescendo of what the Cold War in the 80s did for a lot of people. And I think that in representing Russia in that way left a permanent stain on the way America sees Russia. Not just in Rocky 4. I'm talking about overall the whole Cold War, the whole Red Scare.
Uh-huh.
I think that just has continuously negatively impacted our relationships with Russia to a point where
I don't think anyone in Russia is taking
I was gonna
Rocky
say,
4
you
like
really
offensively.
think Putin is like,
no, I'm not saying
Rocky movie.
I'm not saying Rocky. I'm not saying Rocky in particular. But
I agree with what
Okay.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I totally get what you're saying, but I don't think Rocky 4 is the movie people are gonna point to be like that was just wrong.
Well, I
but
think,
it was just it's propagating a myth that I think shouldn't exist.
but
sure, but I think the movie concludes with a much more positive message of coming together.
better than 2 guys in here than
If I
millions
can
of
do
people
it,
out there.
anyone can do
Yeah,
it. That means like I love you,
It's
Russia.
literally
He literally was like, "I love
After
you,
he
Russia."
beats the guy in a fucking fight.
Yeah,
he beats
so?
the guy in a fight and is like, "Oh, I love you,
because
man."
he killed his best friend. He's there for. He's not
Come
there
on,
fighting
man.
for America.
Nah.
He's wearing American trunks because those were Apollo's
He's
shorts.
wearing an American flag. An American flag.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta rep that country, man.
Come on. If
Dude.
this is America, if this is American exceptionalism, if this isn't
Listen,
like
I don't know.
if a fighter from Puerto Rico won the championship
it's
in Vegas
fine.
and he brought a Puerto Rican flag out, I'm not going to be like, "What the hell?" I mean, yeah, you should represent your country.
But when you're making the central conflict this Cold War Red Scare propaganda
Sure.
piece, and then you end the film with him holding the American flag, wearing American boxers, giving a speech about unity and killing communism.
Well, no,
and
the Russians literally are cheering him at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's no longer become about.
And then it's the whole thing of like, oh, if Americans try hard enough, we can convince commies to get over it.
he
We
doesn't
can
say that in the movie.
But that's basically what was being said though.
That's
am I right?
kind of
Like,
true. That's
what-
I kind of agree with that. Yeah.
So
but I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing.
I think it's I think it's horrible, and I think I just don't like the idea of propagating or setting two countries against each other that have actual. We get to the root of the problem.
you feel like it
It's
was
not
too
an
much
actual-
propaganda.
It was too much. It was too propaganda-y. It was too much of. I also didn't like the whole display with Creed at the beginning either.
Oh, really?
Because
What, the American thing?
yeah, because he ran with that the entire series, but then to some extent, it was that's like too. It's too
It was a
much. It's
callback
too-
to Rocky 1.
Yeah, it's a callback to Rocky 1.
And he's a showman. Like, he's shown
Yeah.
this is what he does.
but
I don't think it was right for Apollo to do that, and I think that's part of the point was he was concentrating too much on being a showman and like, hey, it's America. With literally Drago's like underneath, he looks like he's like in another planet. Drago's like as he comes up, like he's in the ring and it gets risen, and he's like, what is happening?
I
here?
almost kind of feel like that's the perfect example of like, yo, Americans be crazy.
Yeah.
Like it really is like the showboatiness, craziness
Yeah.
of it.
Well,
And-
but then when you have that, and then you have Apollo and James Brown, who are both figures who are very anti. I'm sorry, not Apollo himself, but the person who Apollo is supposed to represent, Muhammad Ali, are both very anti-war, both very anti-thing, and this whole thing propagates this whole idea of like, oh, Americans have to go and fight for this
I
red
think
scare.
Sure.
by this film that Ali comparison's kind of gone.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the only time
I think so too, but
I think the first one's the only one that even then Apollo's not really that much like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Kind of, though.
Fighting style, I
Sure,
agree.
yeah.
But like the way he's promoting and stuff like that, like there's hints of it. I think because people hear that he.
Well, the
based-
shit talking too. It's the shit talking.
Oh yeah, the
That's
shit
a
talk.
big- that's a
Well,
big part
he
of
wasn't
it.
even shit talking in the first movie.
Yeah.
The first movie, he's like friendly with. He's
That's
like, hey,
true.
this guy's Italian, so if you can't fight, at least you know you can make a hell of some pasta.
Yeah.
Like he's super friendly to Rocky in that
But
first
that's
movie.
why I'm saying the fourth one like doubles down on the Ali comparison because he does the big shit talking, he does the big spectacle thing that Ali always did, but then he ends up dying because
Rocky won't
He
throw
was
the
too
towel.
much of a
yeah,
showman.
and Rocky won't throw in the towel, and I don't have any like it's so much in this movie, man. That is just like. I can't rock with the propaganda. I can't rock with the robot. I can't rock with the montages.
The robot. So the robot, I get it. It's bad. But the montages, like
They're fun. They're good.
they're some of the best montages of all the Rocky movies.
Yeah, I will give you. I will say
So,
that.
like,
I will say
and if
that.
it's 30%.
The best soundtrack. This has the best Rocky soundtrack. This does have
So
the best.
let's just talk about
montage.
when it comes to filmmaking. That last fight, it is the most operatic. Like those,
No defense.
no defense. I mean, it's the most operatic in a lot of ways. I think the entrances.
They're all
just
throwing
all landing.
Yeah.
haymakers.
Yeah.
90% of the punches are landing. Have you guys seen the fake 30 for 30 by College Humor?
Yeah.
Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
seen that?
It's great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, with Max Kellerman, and he's like, dude, this is crazy. Like, he defeated communism. It's so good,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Honestly,
so good.
I'm like talking about this. I want to go and watch Rocky 4.
Me too. I think I will. Can I say one thing
Yeah.
too? I saw the Conor McGregor Khabib fight right here in the Collider offices, and one of the Collider homies, I forget his name, but someone was watching the fight. There was like a bunch of people there, and I didn't know everyone. But one of the guys was as soon as you saw. Did you guys see the fight?
Yeah.
By any chance?
Yeah.
You saw Conor's entrance. It was like this big operatic, like Irish craziness.
Right.
And then freaking Khabib comes out and he's wearing his crazy Russian hat like he always does. And literally the guy next to me was like, why is he wearing that goofy hat? And I'm like, oh, it's like and I literally answered. He wasn't talking to me, but I was like, oh, it's like a Russian thing. And he's like, what? The hat like represents like Russia or something? And I'm like, yeah, I think that's what it means. And he's like, what? If that's stupid, man. If I'm from America, I'm not gonna dress up as Dr. Seuss and walk out with like an American hat. And I was like, bro, that's literally Rocky. That's literally what Apollo Creed does.
I'll say this.
And I was gonna say, like, he's like talking about how stupid it is to like represent your country, and like Americans don't do that. I'm like, they kind of do, man.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong
Americans
with
totally do that. I don't think there's anything
I don't
wrong
think
with
there's
being a
anything wrong with that.
showboater.
I'll say this: Rocky 4, to me, introduce. Like, one thing I love about Creed and Creed 2 is those final fights.
Yeah.
Even the first fight in Creed 2, I love the entrances. Like, it gets me pumped up. I think this is the first Rocky movie. Rocky 3, he just goes to the ring. There's no big entrance music.
Yeah.
The only one is the first one is because it's the bicentennial.
Yeah.
Apollo has his thing, but Rocky 4, when Rocky comes down the tunnel and he looks like pure determination, and Drago has this almost national anthem. This giant poster comes up.
Yeah.
The way the lighting is just going across
his eyes.
Rocky's
It's so
eyes.
good.
It's like, I was like, this is the sporting event of the decade. And I think the Creed sequels have done a really good job of that.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's
when-
a huge part of boxing now, is the entrances.
Yeah, before Victor comes out and Drago says, listen, and you hear Drago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, I'm kind of Drago, go in there and get
Yeah.
it. And then when Bianca comes out, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, that anticipation, I think, started with Rocky 4.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. You see
I-
RB3,
that's
you're
true.
wrong.
I mean,
No,
I think that was just the change in boxing in general too,
Sure.
though, right? I don't know if boxing had always been the
Well, Sugar Ray
over-the-top
Leonard, when he
entrances.
fought Hagler, that was pretty similar. Like, Sugar Ray Leonard always made a show of it where Hagler would just come down and be like, let's do this.
Right. I just think I don't know. So I think that for me, maybe it's just the age thing. Like maybe me, because I picked up all these Rocky movies late when I was in high school. You know.
Sure.
So it wasn't like I grew up on Rockies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, it's just like I saw them when I just saw them all in a row, pretty much.
Sure.
You know. So like. It was like Rocky 4 was the most notable one. I was like, wow, this is like the most massive departure from
The rest of the Rocky
And
movies.
I think the character of Rocky changes too. Like he's definitely a lot more like, at least at the start of the film, he's so like I admired Rocky 3 because it showed that he had money, but he wasn't like willing to like overly expend it, or he wasn't like obsessed with the fame. Whereas I feel like when they start Rocky 4, he's like, oh, like he literally, like, I don't know, the robot, like he has a robot. Like,
He got for
shelling
Paulie.
out.
It wasn't his robot.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
man.
but still.
Paulie needs a girlfriend, bro.
Yeah.
Again, robots in the late 80s had like this big
Yeah.
cultural thing. Like there was little Pepsi bots people were buying. People thought it was the future, and it
man.
just turned out to be
It was weird.
ridiculous.
Jeez Louise. But yeah, so I don't know. But for those reasons, I'm out.
Let's move on.
I will say this: Rocky 4 fight is maybe the most epic fight.
It's
of all
fun.
time.
Okay,
Might not be most entertaining, but it's the most
I
epic.
still love the 30 for 30 when they're like, there was like 90% of their shots.
Yeah.
There was no defense in that fight.
Yeah.
And every single one of their punch was like a giant hook.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, like, if you went back in time and went to like the theaters to see all those movies,
Yeah.
I guarantee you Rocky 4 probably had the most livid fans
Really?
in the audience. Like I've read articles about people that saw Rocky 4 in theaters, and they said it was like another level. Like people, when that fight happened, it was like palpable. Just the energy in the
people
theater.
were going kind of nuts. I mean, obviously you're screening for Creed 2.
Yeah.
You had a good vibe.
Yeah.
My screening for Creed 1, people were feeling it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People got into it. They were going for it down
Same thing with Rocky Balboa. I remember seeing that in theaters because I just growing up I was like, I'm never gonna be able to see a Rocky movie in theaters. And then when it happened, I was like, oh my god, because I can't think of another movie that gives you that
You
kind of.
just skipped over Rocky 5 too.
No, well, yeah, I was too young for Rocky.
Let's
Balboa.
talk about Rocky Balboa. The next Rocky movie.
I'm just saying, like, for me, there's not many other films that come close to the way the audience you could feel the energy.
Sure.
It happened a little bit in Infinity War. When Thor showed up at the end of Infinity War, you felt the audience go like,
Thanos.
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
like,
God.
people
I
went nuts.
cheered, and I don't cheer
now,
for movies.
imagine that moment, but for about 20 minutes. That's what the end of a Rocky movie is. It's that, oh my God, yeah, for
Dude.
20 minutes.
You reminded me of Infinity War. Great movie.
Well,
Great movie.
do you think they dumbed it down? Like, do you think they dumbed down the franchise to make it more broad? Because this is the biggest. I
Well,
mean,
Rocky
I'm
IV?
obviously wrong because Rocky 4 is the biggest, highest.
Well,
grossing
here's
Rocky
the thing.
movie.
I think obviously Rocky that's why I say Rocky 3 and 4 are like the gateway drug, because it is the most accessible, easy, digestible one to watch.
Sure.
It is
But
just
I still think Rocky 3 is a lot deeper.
Yeah,
than
Rocky
No,
3
totally.
is actually
Rocky 3 is a
great.
better
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But Rocky 3, you have to bring a lot with you into that movie.
I
You
feel
can
like
you go into Rocky 4 and just be like,
Rocky
I
4
get
is
it.
like a superhero movie. It almost kind of is.
It kind
if
of
you think
is,
about
yeah.
it.
But it's like
It's
it's a revenge
fun.
movie.
Yeah.
You don't need that much. Like Rocky 3 is definitely dealing with a lot more. Him being civilized, fear, conquering your fear, like clever and like changing your style. Rocky 4 is almost like a Greek fable.
Yeah.
It is something that is like just easily digestible.
They call it Rocky 4 a Greek fable.
Because it's like David versus
Quote by
Goliath.
JTE.
Yeah, it is. It's like David versus Goliath. That's literally what
That's
they say. in the
not
movie.
Greek, but I feel
No,
you
that's
there.
not. That's Bible. But I'm just saying, like, it plays like it's so simple that
It's true.
it just works for
I agree.
most people.
I agree. Now let's move on
To Rocky
briefly,
Yeah.
very briefly, because we're running out of time, and I don't have a lot to say. I really think that I like what they were going for in Rocky 5. The idea of brain damage, the idea of him training someone else, all these ideas that kind of get better in Creed. And the idea of retirement and all that stuff is way better in Creed. Like all these ideas are kind of established or attempted to be established in Rocky 5 and then just kind of get, not fully developed. I think what really sinks the movie though, and what everyone always talks about, and it really does sink the movie, especially after rewatching this, is the third act, man. I mean, that street fight is rough.
Yeah.
And the fact that it really is like, did you see Luke Cage season 1?
Yeah.
That finale, Rocky 5, bro. Like, I was like, bro, are they really pulling a Rocky 5 right now? It was so bad. It was so cheesy. I don't know if you liked it, but
I did like Luke Cage. I don't like
that finale, though. Did you like that finale?
Yeah. I like Luke Cage. First season. I didn't watch the second
Man,
season.
that finale pulled me out, man.
Here's the
But,
thing.
but
with
I felt that street fight was just too cheesy.
you go to a Rocky movie. At the end of the day, there's one thing you have to see, and it's a boxing match.
Yeah.
You never got Rocky in the ring. I get why he did it.
Sure.
Like they wanted to change it up. It's the 5th film, but I think they learned the hard way. Like, no, you need to have a boxing match.
Yeah.
You can't replace it with a street fight.
This was going to be the last one, though, right?
It
He was
was.
supposed to die.
Yeah,
It was
that's
the
what I was
last
going to
one
ask.
for a while.
That was what I was going to ask. Do you think it would have been better if he died at the end? Or?
Because
Then we wouldn't
we
have
would have
gotten
got Balboa, we would have
just
got Creed, and I don't want to see Rocky die. I don't know who his idea to do that was because he's like, I'm done playing the character.
Yeah.
But for who Rocky is, you don't want to see him dying in the ring.
That's a good point.
And that's what it was supposed to be. He was supposed to like die in the ring.
Yeah, he's been
What
through
a
enough.
downer! What it would ruin all the previous movies for me.
Yeah, I was gonna
don't
say.
want to see.
What a downer.
Once I know he dies in
It's
the
a
ring,
good point. I'm with you.
yeah,
He's been through enough. No, he
It's
doesn't
like,
have to die in front of his family.
He's
or
such a
some shit.
lovable person.
Yeah.
That you don't want to see someone like that die.
Yeah.
Like this ain't Raging Bull. This ain't like this dark tormented guy who needs to die in the ring. It just kind of go against what I think the movies kind of represent.
Yeah, I mean, this movie really does fall apart. I don't know if you have anything to say about it. No.
Nah, I mean...
Let's move on to Rocky.
Let me say this. I mean, as someone who loves the Rocky movies, as a kid, I liked Rocky 5.
Yeah.
I was
As a kid, because I
no.
remember watching this when I was like 7
No.
or 8.
Tommy
and I
Gunn
was
was.
like, no.
I was like, dude, Tommy Gunn was kind of a badass when I was a kid, and there was moments in that movie where it's still quotable to me. Like I still quote Rocky 5, even though when he goes and punches Paulie down. First time Paulie's been punched by a bad guy, and he's like going at Rocky, and Rocky just will not give in, and he punches Paulie. Paulie's like, you should have left him in the street where you found him, and Rocky gives that look. He goes, hey, you knocked him down. Why try knocking me down now? And then Tommy's like, my ring's outside. And he's like, let's go. And to me as a kid, I was like, oh, shit. Like, yeah, let's go. Again, it wasn't a boxing match, but it was awesome. And then a scene which something that Stallone actually brought a lot in Rocky Balboa, you never saw flashbacks during a fight. You never cut to like other movies or anything.
Sure.
When Rocky is getting beaten, Rocky 5, he starts having visions of Mickey, visions of Mr. T hitting him, punching him. And he literally, what gets him up is Mickey saying, get up, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I like that. See, I like that a lot
Mickey
more.
loves you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit. Like, the way he was able to pull from the previous films and, like, motivate him, he does it in Rocky Balboa. There's scenes where
And
the
Creed
montage.
does that too.
Creed does it where he's on the ground and he's, and I'm like, all this is from Rocky V. Rocky V started this, so even though it's not the best film, it brought something to the franchise.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I definitely think the storytelling in Rocky V is better than the storytelling in Rocky IV.
Yes,
Like,
I agree with
you
that.
agree with
'Cause
that?
Rocky IV is...
That's what I just said. I mean, I said that what they introduced in Rocky V, man, like concussion, brain damage, retirement, training someone younger and hungry, and that to me is that's the way to go. That's the way to go. If you're gonna continue a story, that's the way to do it.
I think 5.
I'm with you. The ending is what just tears it down.
A lot of ways, 5 is a reaction to 4. 4 became this montage-heavy kind of like cartoon in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that only when they went to 5, they're like, we're bringing back John Z. Allison, the director of the first one. He directed 5 because they wanted to try to get back to what the first 2 films. So like, there are some things in there I think that are for the better. It just the problem was the studios said you can't kill Rocky. Stallone had to rewrite the ending, and the movie it didn't come together well.
Sure.
But there's things in it I like, and I still like this day.
Yeah, I mean, and it did bring about, I think, a really, I would say, underrated Rocky movie, and that's Rocky Balboa, which came out in 2006, I believe.
Maybe one of the most quotable
It's
Rocky
so
movies.
underraid, man. It's great.
You know, that speech he gives is iconic now.
Yeah, and oh, that's right. Yeah, with his son. It introduced Rocky post Adrian, Rocky post boxing, Rocky with the restaurant, Adrian's. That is such a great idea. It introduced the relationship with his son and how his son feels like he's always in his shadow. It introduced the idea of sports coverage, which wasn't really that heavy in the first.
In the first couple.
The idea of ESPN and sports and the idea
times have changed.
of goats and back in 2006.
Virtual simulator.
Virtual simulator.
Which again was based on a Muhammad Ali Rocky Marciano simulator.
And it's one of those things where that's what ESPN was doing in 2006. They were doing simulators. They were doing who's the greatest of all time. Like they were doing the rankings and all that.
I think the reason Rocky Balboa works so well is the same way the first Rocky was like a personal story for Rocky about trying to make it in Hollywood and just trying to break through. He at this point was not making movies. Stallone's movies were going straight to DVD.
That's true.
He hadn't been in a hit in like 10 years.
And then he got huge.
Well, and then Rocky Balboa regenerated his and
he did Rambo.
I'm telling you, after that, from 2000 till Rocky Balboa, which was 2006 or 7.
Yeah, 2006.
He was he was dead in the water, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, as a Stallone fan. Okay.
Why are you laughing?
I think it's funny.
It's true.
Dead in the
like
water?
one of his last big movies was Driven, which was like this Formula One racing movie that came out around 2000.
I think I remember
Nobody
that movie.
saw that movie.
Yeah.
Every movie he
I was
came.
gonna say I think I saw it.
He had Get Carter, which did nothing at the box office. Was not a good
never
movie.
even heard of that.
And then he was Seagal.
Yeah.
He was straight to DVD for like years.
Well, a lot of people.
Seagal, you got shipped straight to DVD.
A lot of people were kind of like a little bit hesitant towards Rocky Balboa when they first heard about it.
Well, because they were like, dude, you're too
yeah,
old.
you're
Yada,
too
yada, yada.
old. Like you just want to bring this back.
And if you watch that movie now, it is literally that movie is just a scene after scene of Stallone preaching life lessons that he's learned.
At his son too.
And his son, and just
it's so
not
good.
even to his son. When he goes to the city council, he's like, "Who do you tell me?"
And the other homie too. I mean, the guy who plays his not stepson, but you know what I'm saying.
His name is Steps. Yeah.
Oh, Steps. There you go. I mean, he has like.
I know. It's a bad. That's one of the things.
He
kind of gave up.
Creative with the.
He's like representing like my stepson. You know?
Some of the things. Well, it wasn't because his stepson.
I know,
but the Rocky Steps.
I know. But either way, I want to give a huge shout out not only to the casting director, but freaking Milo Ventimiglia, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's perfect casting.
Great foresight.
That's literally.
Foresight.
You know what's funny? I think I can't. I don't want to make up a lie, but I really did feel like even watching Heroes. Because I've talked about it a lot, but Heroes was like my shit, bro. Like I would watch Heroes all the time.
It was good for half a season, yeah.
It was good for a good 1.5 seasons, man. But and I finished the whole thing too, which was rough. But Peter Petrelli, man, I remember watching Milo and being like, man, he does have like the Stallone mouth and the Stallone vibes, like even just naturally. That's perfect casting, and he's a great actor too. Like he's an Emmy-nominated actor for This Is Us.
I love seeing him in Creed too, man. Like I was so happy to have that last scene.
Me too. I was ecstatic about that. Like I literally was like, that made the whole movie.
Because like I said, I understood why he kind of became separated, but it didn't feel like it was
You needed
right to the
that.
character.
Yeah.
So to have him fix that in this movie, I thought was a huge plus.
Rocky Balboa is really well
Listen,
done. I mean,
Mace-
the ending is great too when he goes the distance. With
Yeah,
the, with
and Mason
champ.
the Dixon line,
Yeah,
played by
him.
Antonio Tarver, and Antonio Tarver's fine, but he is literally just there as he's just a
Yeah,
piece.
he's just
that
a
movie
piece.
is all about Rocky and all about Stallone giving
Training,
out
getting
life
buff.
lessons.
Yeah.
And it has the last scene of Tony Duke where he's like, "We're gonna build some hurting bombs." I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, Tony
That's-
Duke's
I
back."
think that's even in the trailer, right?
Yeah,
that's
we're gonna make some hurting bombs.
yeah.
JT, can you quote the speech that he gives?
Oh
Not
my god,
word
that's
for
like
word.
a 6-minute speech.
Yeah, I mean, the most part
I
is
remember when I grew
it's not about how hard.
It's just all Stallone gibberish. Yo, Adrian, it's like, and you're like, I don't get what you're saying,
JT's out.
but I feel it, man. I feel it. No, when he says it, like, it doesn't matter how many
is
times you
not-
get
It ain't
hit.
about how hard you get hit. It's about hard. No, it ain't about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep going,
Yeah.
keep moving forward. Because that's
Yeah.
what winners do.
Yeah,
It's-
you
there's
got
a
to
whole
hold into
speech.
Stallone voice, man. Come on now, come on.
You got Stallone voice?
Yeah, not really.
Nah, man.
I wouldn't respect.
Finally,
religion.
let's finish up because we're
Disrespect
way
legend
over
like
time. I disrespect him quite a bit.
You're not the
I'll
only
do
one,
it
trust
again.
me.
Hey, yo, no.
Everyone,
keep doing it.
everyone does the voice, and you know why he has that voice, do you? Do you
Yeah,
know?
he got dropped as a baby, right?
No, he was paralyzed when he was born. Half his face was paralyzed. The nerves weren't like connected, so he had to have surgery as a baby to like reconnect
Holy
the nerves.
shit! But you said
So-
he got dropped as
Well,
well.
I
He
thought
got
that's why.
dropped as a
I thought
baby.
that's why he got paralyzed. I thought he got paralyzed because he was dropped. I didn't know he was born that way.
No, he was just born that way.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
my God.
I knew what he was gonna say. Like, I just thought he got
Yeah,
dropped.
yeah, yeah.
I thought that was the reason why that
Yeah,
happened.
but
Like,
mother dropped me.
yeah.
It had to be a pretty bad
Dude,
drop.
I'm sorry, Stallone. If you, well, I just think if you drop like a newborn, like that probably happens.
But at the same time, it gives him something different than any other
Yeah.
guy that's coming out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's part of it.
yeah.
Let's finish up with Creed briefly because we're way over time.
Mm-hmm.
Creed, to be honest, man, it was my favorite movie of 2015. It still is my favorite.
It was
movie
my
of
number
2015.
2 of that year.
It's my favorite movie, man.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max
Yeah,
is
Mad Max Fury
cool,
Road.
but
I mean, listen, I
But
love
Creed
Creed.
is
Two long gap sequels too. Two long
I
gap sequels.
love Creed.
I don't know.
And it was my
man.
number
I like-
2 movie of the year.
I put Mad Max as number 2.
But
I put
I
Mad
understand,
Max
but
as my number 1 too.
I'll
but-
put number 2 at Mad Max
because
I love
Creed,
Mad Max.
Creed was a great reinvention almost of a Rocky movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mad Max was something I like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
The craftsmanship was so. I mean, yeah, it was a sequel,
Sure.
but same way that Rocky 1 is a sequel to Rocky 4. It's just
Sure.
like grounded
I just
small
felt
movie to
more-
this epic.
At the end of the day, I always connect to movies.
Don't compare Mad Max
No,
Fury Road to
you-
Rocky 4.
I'm just
like-
saying in scale. Like, no, I see what you're saying, but like, you know what I mean.
I cater to movies that bring me connection to characters and
Totally.
connection to story more than
Totally.
anything else. Even though I was the guy in the theater freaking out during Mad Max Fury
Yeah.
Road, I was freaking out. And I was like,
Yeah.
yo, this is crazy. And I loved it. I put it number 2. But Creed, man, Creed really did feel to me, like you said, it brought style to the Rocky franchise more than any other Rocky film. And that's because of Ryan Coogler. And that's
Coogler knocked it out.
Coogler not only bringing in Rachel Morrison to bring in that crazy, awesome cinematography that it felt very grounded and
That
felt like
visceral, gritty.
it felt like this is Philly now. Like this is Philly nowadays, and this is how Philly looks like and feels like. I love the training montages. I love the story of
Yeah.
him coming from wealth and coming from that shadow of
I think-
Apollo Creed.
But one of the things
all
with,
that stuff,
with Creed
man.
is the villain was like he didn't have Apollo. Like
Sure.
Apollo
Yeah,
was such a
yeah,
presence in that
sure.
first Rocky movie.
But just like Rocky Balboa, this was more of a
Rock-
Creed story.
I agree, but at that point, Rocky's old and he's been through all the
Sure,
fights.
but-
For me, like one thing I love about Creed 2 was Victor was such a presence,
Sure.
and not only did he have a presence, but he had a story behind him.
Yeah.
Whereas there was real no story against this guy.
No.
And the way he got the fight was like because he's a Creed.
Yeah.
To me, like that stuff like that were just small little things that kept him from being my number 1.
Yeah, but I feel like
But
what
those
this movie
those are
introduced,
minor things.
I think it's far superior than what a lot of movies have done, and that's introduced like new character. Man, characters is it's something that Hollywood is still trying to do, man. Like not every movie can make characters that you fully feel connected to, and that's what Creed did. It brought Michael B. Jordan's great performance as Adonis Creed, and it brought in, I feel really underrated, and I said it before already with Creed 2, but Tessa Thompson, man, as Bianca.
Yeah, she was great.
She felt so authentic and so real, and she felt like an actual Philly girl.
Stallone nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, Stallone nominated
Almost
for an
won.
Oscar.
Yeah, it should have won.
Ryan Coogler,
he
he brought
brought-
something new and original. It felt like you said too. It felt like an actual, like a black filmmaker had taken over the Rocky franchise, and you felt it. You're like, yo, this is different, and it's cool, and it's dope, and it's still in the Rocky world. I love Creed.
sorry.
Yeah,
you guys can
dude,
tell.
I love Creed too. It was my number 2 movie of the year. The only reason why I wasn't number 1 was because Mad Max was like, I didn't know people could still do that.
Now, let me ask you this: 2015 saw Mad Max Fury Road, Creed, Force Awakens, and Vacation as 4 like
Vacation.
Vacation, the reboot with Ed Helms.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Why is that?
Just all examples of like long gap sequels, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and then getting a reboot. Where would you rank those 4?
I would rank Creed, Mad Max, Force Awakens, Vacation.
Yeah, Vacation was horrible.
I see Vacation. So I have no
It's
thoughts.
horrible. Yeah, Mad Max, Creed, Force Awakens.
Yeah,
I didn't love Force Awakens like everybody else.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
really
right.
enjoyed it.
You didn't love it. Yeah, that's right. But it'll still probably be ranked at the bottom compared to Creed and Mad Max.
I'm not thrilled with this whole new Star Wars reboot, man. The Last Jedi was.
You say that to my right background, bro.
Last Jedi was it hit and miss, but I think
I
it
think
missed
we're all
more
on the
than it hit.
same. I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah,
on
and
that.
Force Awakens is like by comparison to Last Jedi, I like it more now.
I was gonna say,
like
I have a rating back. I love the Last Jedi. I love the new Star Wars movie. Let's say that. I think Last Jedi has a lot of problems.
I loved
think
Rogue
Force
One.
Awakens has some problems.
loved Rogue One.
I think I like Rogue One. I like every single Star Wars movie. Let's not get into that.
Listen,
Let's
Stallone should have been Star Wars. That's all we all need to know.
Yeah, he was gonna be a
Han
Han
Solo.
Solo. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He auditioned.
But I think what finishes out this movie for me, it's what I said when we talked about it in the Ryan Coogler episode. It's Ludwig Göransson. He's the biggest hype man.
Soundtrack.
He's the MVP.
I like the soundtrack
Amazing.
more for the first Creed though than I did the second. I will say that.
Dude,
I like the score for the
Creed's
first
better,
Creed,
but the music's better in the
music,
second
the
one.
original music.
With you, I'm with
Amazing.
you.
Yeah,
I'm with you, but for
Creed
me,
too.
Rocky is more about the score than
dude, the score in the first Creed though, man,
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's what I'm saying.
Ludwig just. To me, I mean, I did a movie fight about it. I don't know if you remember that, but I
think so,
talked
yeah.
about how like it's the perfect combination between like Rocky themes and hip hop and modern and old school and just blend it together and not make it cheesy and corny. Make it actually kind of cool, and modernize the montages. Because nowadays, like if you think about it now, like even before they announced Creed, if I was making a 2013 Rocky movie. The first thing I would do as a filmmaker is like, I'm gonna make these montages with hip hop music. You bet your ass I'm gonna do that. And sure enough, that's what you do because that for me feels like it's a full progression of the actual sports nowadays is all hip hop,
Yeah.
and the way hip hop is incorporated into this movie is great.
we gotta say this: 8 films. Over
8 films.
40 years.
I want you guys
Yeah.
to
and
rank
there's
them.
one bad movie in the bunch, in my opinion.
Let's
I know
do
you
it.
don't like Rocky 4, but most people love that movie.
Yeah, I know I'm in the minority.
So
Let-
Rocky 5 is the only one. I mean, that's pretty
Let's-
remarkable.
Let's do this right now. Let's rank the Rocky movies, all 8 of them, starting with Mr. JTE, our special guest, Mr. Rocky Man himself. Ready, set,
This is
go.
tough.
Number 1.
It's Rocky, the OG, 1976.
Number 2. It's tough, right? Number 2 is tough.
I think I have mine.
I'm gonna have to go Rocky 3.
Oh shit! Damn. Okay.
I think I think the problem is when you get these Creed movies, you're like, oh, it's a formula. Who invented that formula? The Rocky movies. There
But
was
it
never
doesn't
a
mean
Rocky.
it's the. I'm
No,
like
I
in movie
understand.
fights mode.
I understand. I get it, but
Where I think everything's a movie fight.
I've had 3 years with Creed. I've had 30 plus with Rocky 3. I know it's gonna hold up for 30 years because I've been watching it for 30 years.
So Rocky.
Creed and Creed 2 I love, and I'm gonna rank them, but I need
Okay.
to give a little more time,
Right.
even though I love them.
So Rocky
Rocky
3.
3.
Then at number 3 you have what?
This is tough.
It's tough.
It's between Rocky 2 and Creed 1.
Come on, you got to pick, man. I'm gonna give you a 5-second clock.
I'll give it to Creed.
Okay.
And it's close, but Rocky 2 is right behind it, and I
3.
almost want to put 2.
Then 4, Rocky 2. Number 5 is what?
Shit. Rocky 4.
Rocky 4. Number 5. Number 6.
Creed 2.
And number 7.
Oh shit.
Rocky Balboa.
Shit. And number 8, Rocky 5. Dang. JTE's
deep
list.
That's deep list.
RB3.
And again, this is off the top of my head. If I really want to make this list, I need a week with all the Blu-rays
Yeah.
locked in. I
was gonna say that sounds like a Sunday night for you.
I mean, I need a week. I need to block out all the curtains.
They're all on Netflix at one point.
They're all
right?
on YouTube right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you no bullshit?
No, I saw 3 of them.
like,
on
do you have
YouTube.
to buy them or?
No, they're free on
Well,
YouTube.
they're all on my shelf and Blu-rays, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. Okay. So me, the ranking's pretty easy. Number 1 is Rocky. Number 2 is Creed. I just think to me that I connected with that one on a heart and
I get it.
personal level.
I get it.
Number 3, I put Rocky 3. Number 4, I'd put Rocky 2. Number 5, I put Creed 2, but Creed 2 and Rocky 2 are like pretty close, in my book right now. Number 6, I'll put Rocky Balboa. Number 7, Rocky 5. Number 8, Rocky 4.
How do you put Rocky 4?
Rocky 5 over Rocky 4.
You'll never hear that anywhere else on the
That's some
internet.
hatred.
You'll never hear that. Search the internet. Stop this.
Hot
Pause
scoop.
it. You'll never
Hot
find that
scoop.
anywhere.
Hot take.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so,
I'll do mine. Mine is probably the most controversial.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just came up with it in my head. Just
God.
thinking
Watch
about
Creed be number 1. I
Yeah,
bet
watch.
Creed is my number 1.
Hey.
What you gonna do? I mean,
There would be
I'm
no
like that-
Creed without Rocky.
I'm like that GIF. I'm like, I mean, what
All
you
right,
want to
so
do?
Creed's number 1.
Creed's my number 1. Number 2, I'll put Rocky number 2. I'll put Rocky 3 number 3. I'll put Creed 2 number 4.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I'll put
Rocky
Rocky 2 number 5.
Interesting.
What am I missing?
Rocky 4, 5, and
Balboa.
Balboa.
Oh man, I'll put Balboa, then 4, then 5.
Okay.
That's my top 8.
Interesting.
Hey.
We did it, guys. We ranked all the Rocky movies. We talked about our favorite moments.
That was a fun episode. That was
we
a lot.
did it. It was a lot. It's a long episode.
This is the longest in the Collider era for sure.
We sure did.
How long are we at?
We're long.
2 hours, something like that.
If you guys listen all the way through, thank you so much. If you didn't, what's wrong with you? You're probably not hearing me talk to you right now. But either way, guys, let us know in the comment section down below. What is your favorite Rocky movie? What is your ranking? Let us know all that good stuff down below. Let us say thank you to our special guest, Mr. JTE, for that Rocky hot takes.
Yeah, man.
Hot scoops.
Do I plug myself here?
Plug yourself.
JTE Movie Thinks on Twitter. JTE Movie Thinks on YouTube.
Hey, what happened to the podcast, man?
I haven't done it since
Yeah,
I
it
got
was
in my
me and you.
accident.
Okay.
But my teeth are almost
You want to
fixed.
bring it back? You want to bring me back?
It'll start coming back.
Oh,
But for now, YouTube videos, reviews.
Alrighty.
When does this go up? Immediately?
Tomorrow.
Goes
Yeah,
into
check
tomorrow.
out. I have
AKA
check out my channel for a review of Green Book.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, all right.
Mahershala Ali, man.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, Viggo
Mahershala.
Mortensen.
We talked about
Yeah.
Mahershala 2 weeks ago, 3
Yeah,
weeks ago.
I was wrong. Probably didn't say the N-word. I apologize. Probably did not
there you
say
go,
the N-word.
man.
But he was racist in Rocky.
Fake news.
Yeah, I don't know. He was a little bit racist, Rocky.
Yeah, yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah.
But N-word is pretty extreme.
I just thought I heard it. You know, like,
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Either way, guys, thank you for listening all the way through. For the Meaning of Podcast, I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And we are peacing out. Peace out, guys.